A very good morning to you and welcome to Parliamentary Broadcast Unit in collaboration with PBU. Welcome to the morning sitting of Wednesday, August 2nd, 2023 that starts at 9:30. Today, members of Parliament are expected to consider and debate on a couple of bills and motions, including the Penal Code Amendment Bill of the National Assembly, the Bill number 56 of 2022, moved by the Member of Parliament for Nakuru Town East, Honorable David Gikaria. The bill on its second reading, which objective is to amend the Penal Code 63 by repealing Section 182, which prescribes the offence of idle and disorderly persons. The law enforcers have often used Section 182 to harass innocent members of the public. This bill does not delegate legislative powers, neither does it limit fundamental rights and freedoms of people. The bill also does not affect the functions of the county government and is therefore not a bill concerning counties for the purposes of standing orders. On traditional expenditure of public funds. In every common, the bill considers in 182 that idle and disorderly persons, every common prostitutes behaving in a disorderly or indecent manner in any public place, or every person causing, procuring or encouraging any person to beg and gather alms, shall be deemed idle and disorderly persons and are guilty or misdemeanor and are liable for the first offence to imprisonment for 1 month or to a fine not exceeding 100 shillings or to both, and for every subsequent offence to imprisonment of 100 for 1 year. Also, the Parliamentary Pensions Amendment Bill of the National Assembly, that is Bill number 15 of 2023, moved by Sirisia Member of Parliament John Waluke on its first reading. The primary objective or the principal objective of the bill is to amend the Parliamentary Pensions Act, Cap 196. It proposes to raise the amount of pension due to former members of Parliament who served between 1st July in 1984 and 1st January 2001 to a minimum sum of Kenya shillings 100,000. This is in the light of the fact that despite serving the nation, some former members of Parliament are still languishing in poverty and there is need to take care of its welfare. Also, the changes are in line with the recommendations of Akiwimi Tribunal, which was appointed in January 2009 by the Parliamentary Service Commission, PSC, to review the terms and conditions of service of the members and employees of Parliament. The tribunal submitted its report to members in November 12, 2009, in which one of the recommendations was that 500 former members of Parliament to be paid for the equivalent of $1,000 each as living persons, that is equivalent to 100,000 shillings, with effect from 1st January 2010. The Parliamentary Service Commission adopted the report in June 2010 and resolved that any of the said former members earning and resolved that any of the said former 100,000 shillings to be paid monthly. The bill also provides for amendment section of 8 Act to provide that former members of Parliament who still serves in pension and whose monthly pensions amount to less than 100,000 shall be entitled to a monthly pension of 100,000 shillings. Now, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Gladys Boss, is already in the House to start the proceedings of today, August 2nd, the morning sitting, and I hand over to the plenary.
Let us pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor us, your servants whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of important trust in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. I direct that the division bell be rung for 10 minutes.
Having not achieved the quorum, the bell has been rung for 10 minutes to allow members of parliament who might have been in different meetings to come to the House so that the proceeding of the morning sitting of Wednesday, August 2nd starts. The members of parliament are expected to today debate the Parliamentary Pensions Amendment Bill in this first reading by John Waluke, the Member of Parliament for Sirisia constituency. The bill number 15 of 2023 that seeks to amend the Parliamentary Pensions Act that proposes to raise the amount of pension due to members of parliament who served between 1st July 1984 and 1st January 2001 to a minimum sum of Kenya shillings 100,000. This bill does not concern the county governments in terms of Article 110(1) of the Constitution, as it does not affect the functions and powers of county governments under the 4th schedule to the Constitution. Also, this bill by Member of Parliament for Sirisia constituency, Honorable John Waluke, does not delegate legislative powers, and it does not limit rights and fundamental freedoms to the Bill of Rights. Subject to the provisions of the Act, a person shall, after date of commencement, therefore, be entitled to receive a pension under this section as from time when the following conditions are fulfilled: that he has ceased to be a member of the National Assembly by reason of dissolution of Parliament, and his aggregated period of recognizable service in 2 terms of Parliament, and also has attained the age of 45. Also, members of Parliament are expected today to consider motions brought by Jane Minor, the Member of Parliament for Kirinyaga, introduction of comprehensive health education as core subjects in school. The House resolved that the national government, through the State Department of Basic Education, introduces comprehensive health, wellness, and sex education in the curriculum as a core subject in schools. Public health is a fundamental responsibility of the government, and it is the imperative to address pressing health problems faced by the young people, including poor sexual and reproductive health, inadequate knowledge and information regarding sexual health and protection against sexual transmitted infections. The current state of adolescents' health training programs is inadequate and fragmented, resulting in limited access to health care information and services by the youth in the country. It's concerned that as a result of this, young people face significant barriers in accessing comprehensive health care. Cognizant that comprehensive sex education through school-based programs, community-based programs, and healthcare facilities can promote health sexual practices among its young people and reduce the spread of HIV and AIDS and other sexual transmitted infections. therefore lowering the incidences of teenage pregnancies and increasing school attendance and retention. Also, the motion on establishment of a National Cancer Prevention and Control Fund by Honorable Timothy Torotich, the Member of Parliament for Marakwet West, that the House resolve the government through the National Treasury establishes a National Cancer Prevention and Control Fund to promote prevention, control, and treatment of cancer in the country. The Constitution provides for the right of every person to access the highest attainable standard of health, which includes the right to healthcare services. Cancer is among the leading causes of death in the country. Although the budgetary allocation for healthcare services is progressive, it is inadequate to cater for cancer prevention and care across the country, further noting that cancer control in the country is hampered by inadequate cancer care infrastructure and limited specified human resource capacity. Also, Brighton Yegon Konoin, Member of Parliament, has a mention on development and implementation of a childcare program for children whose parents are in lawful custody. The House therefore urges the government through the State Department for Social Protection and Senior Citizen Affairs to develop and implement a program for the care of children above the age of 4 years whose parents are under lawful custody. The Article 53 of the Constitution provides for the right of children, including the right to free and compulsory basic education. Section 22 of the Person Deprived of Liberty Act and the Child Care Policy also provides for the care of a child whose parent is deprived of liberty until the child is still required parental support, recognizing the majority of these children often suffer from emotional distress, social stigma, and economic hardship. All children should be accorded a means of maintaining their relationship, though the parents, not children, have restricted economic resources available for their support, which in turn negatively impacts their lives. The motion on the national policy on deworming of school-going children by Honorable Mashua Waithaka will also be considered. The House urges the national government through the Ministry of Health to develop a national policy on deworming of school-going children as a crucial part of mainstreaming the healthcare access in the country. Article 43(1)(a) of the Constitution provides that every person has a right to the highest attainable standard of health, including the right to healthcare services. The relationship between health and education plays a significant role in school attendance rates. It's a concern that the negative effects of poor sanitation, such as the parasite infestations, particularly among the school-going children, lead to diseases such as anemia, stunted growth, and other salient problems, which in turn leads to low school attendance and impact education standards. Also recognizing that according to research, school-based deworming is one of the most cost-effective interventions that provides a huge range of holistic and social benefits, such as increased social attendance, healthier kids who do better in school. The public health concerns at Langata Cemetery motion brought by Honorable Felix Odiwar, the Member of Parliament for Langata, is also among the motions that are going to be considered by the House today. And the House urges the national government through the Ministry of Health to urgently conduct an assessment of the public health risk posed by the continued usage of the Langata Cemetery and to the institute mitigatory measures and collaborate with other stakeholders, including the Nairobi County government, to identify the sustainable and suitable alternative land for use as a cemetery. Article 42 of the Constitution provides for the right of every person to a clean and healthy environment. It's aware that Article 69 of the Constitution obligates the state to ensure sustainable utilization of environment and natural resources, including land. The fourth schedule to the Constitution assigns the national government the function of land planning, including the general principles of land planning and coordination of the planning by counties, as well as matters of health policy, recognizing that there is an ongoing public cry regarding the neglect of the Langata Public Cemetery. Also, Member of Parliament of Embakasi West, Honorable Mark Mwenje, has a motion on development and implementation of a land of program for the voluntary regularization of land occupied by squatters for a prescribed period. The House therefore resolves that the government develops and implements a policy for voluntary regularization of land occupied by squatters for a prescribed period, including the negotiation for financial settlements across the country to address the challenges facing the squatters. Lack of access to ownership of productive assets, in particularly to land, is one of the most serious sources of economic and social insecurity for Kenyans. Aware that many communities, particularly in the rural income dwellers, the only way of accessing land is to put up dwellings that have been to take up the residence on land that is unfit for human habitation. The Bill of Rights in Chapter 4 of the Constitution guarantees every citizen the right to adequate housing and reasonable standards of sanitation. It notes that there are very many squatters who have settled on land that belongs to either absentee landlords, unadjudicated land, public land, or community land for long periods of time, with some disputed while others undisputed. It's a concern that the issue of land settlement in many urban areas, particularly in the formal settlements, has remained unresolved, with numerous persons remaining squatters. Also, the expansion of drug and sustained substance abuse rehabilitation centers motion brought by Honorable John Makali, where the House urges the government to institute intensive programs for the dissemination of information.
Order number 2.
The quorum having been
Communication
achieved,
from
I
the chair.
hand over to the Deputy Speaker
Order
and
number
the
3.
plenaries of the House. My name is
Messages.
Angela Cheror.
Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 2nd August 2023, morning sitting. Number 1, submission of nominees to Balambala, Gatanga, and Nyeri Town constituency from the National Government Constituency Development Fund Board. Number 2, reports of the Auditor General and financial statement in respect of the following constituencies for the year ended 30th June 2022 and the certificates therein. A, Mumias East, B, Bomet East, C, Kibwezi East, D, Kibwezi West, E, Kisumu West, F, Webuye West, G, Kajiado South, H, Teso North, I, North Mugirango, J, Nyando, K, Bondo, L, Masinga, M, Navakolo, N, Matungu, O, Butere, P, Lurambi, Q, Quiseo, R, Tongeren, S, Mukureni, T, Kanduyi, U, Bumula, V, Nyatike, W, Rangwe, X, Lukuyani, Y, Nambale, and Z, Kandara. Madam Speaker, I submit. Thank you.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements. Order number 8, the Penal Code Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 56 of 2022. Second reading. Mover to reply.
Honorable David Gikaria, you may reply.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First of all, let me take this opportunity to thank members who had contributed to this very important amendment that tends to address some of the colonial laws that we are supposed to be looking into and removing them from our, after the 2010 constitutional speaker, we needed to clean up our penal code, which has very, very punitive colonial laws, which are, one, against our legislation, and two, are also against our constitution, Honorable Speaker. I had an opportunity of going before JLAC, and JLAC also agreed with me over and above Section 182, which I was addressing to repeal. They also agreed that there are so many others within the penal code, and it needs to be looked at holistically. And maybe I would be asking the chair of JLAC, Mheshimiwa Murungara, to consider maybe as a committee amendment to be able to look at those very punitive laws that were, curtailing our people from doing business, from addressing their day-to-day issues and other very important. And I say this, Honorable Speaker, is that with the amendment and the so many contributions that the members did give, I totally agree with the few who had overlooked, particularly on matters to do with arms and begging in our streets. And it is true, Honorable Speaker, there are some people who are bringing beggars, even across the border, to come and beg in our streets, which, of course, was being deleted. But we also need to look at a more proper way of addressing beggars issue. And I want to agree with the government. It has come up with very targeted measures to try and address the people living with disability. And it's also part of what I've also amending in the National Construction Authority to also address some of these issues where instead of people living with disability going to the streets to beg, then the government can be able to bring some other measures that they can be able to earn a living. Of course, we understand, but of course it has been said, disability is not inability. So there are other better ways of how people living with disability can be able. But most importantly, Honorable Speaker, is to agree with all the contributors of the amendment that where police take advantage of the penal code, that if they look at you and they suspect you look like you're going to commit a crime, then you're arrested, then this is something that the penal code the amendment was trying to address. So, Honorable Speaker, with those so many words, I beg to reply. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I now put the question. The Penal Code Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 56 of 2022 be read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Will as many of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
The Penal Code Amendment Bill 2022, a bill for an act of Parliament to amend the Penal Code. Order number 9, the Parliamentary Pensions Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 15 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the Parliamentary Pensions Act. Order number 10, the Anti-Corruption
One moment first. I think we'll refer the bill to the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. Next order.
Order number 10, the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2023, first reading. a bill for an act of parliament to amend the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act.
The bill is hereby referred to the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs. Next order.
Order number 11. Motion. Introduction of comprehensive health education as a core subject in schools. Resumption of debate.
I think we had 15 minutes left on this particular debate. Who was the member? Before we proceed, then we acknowledge and welcome the following schools who are in the speakers gallery. Pangani Girls High School, Staherehe Constituency, Nairobi County. And Katani DEB Secondary School from Mavoko Constituency, Machakos County. You're welcome. The Honorable Julius Taituma, I think, had a balance of 7 minutes. I'm informed. Is he here? Okay. Is there a member who wants, if you press the intervention button, you may proceed. The Honorable Nimron Bai. Point of order, or you want to contribute to the debate? Okay, proceed.
This is on the comprehensive public health education for schools. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to speak to this. Secondly, is to appreciate the Almighty God. Yesterday, things were not so good for me, but you know, the position that was under attack is not mine, is for my community. So I can't stand losing the position. I'll be cast. So I'll make my effort to be here and correct things. With all that, Madam Speaker, there's something I picked with the issue of health, especially in our schools. Madam Speaker, I represent a rural constituency, like most of us. And in the rural constituencies, Madam Speaker, you find girls, especially on reproductive health, getting pregnant at early stages. You go to secondary schools, you find our girls leaving school at the age of 14 years, 15 years when they are in Form 2, Form 3. And Madam Speaker, you don't find the same in the urban areas. And that does not mean girls in the rural areas engage more in the reproductive behavior than the girls in the urban areas. So whatever is taught in the urban areas for girls to be aware and alert and restrain from getting early pregnancies as part of health, Madam Speaker, I would encourage that it is also put under the curriculum for the girls in the rural, for the girl in the rural areas, Madam Speaker, to be aware about how to protect themselves and not waste their lives on early pregnancies, because we've lost brilliant minds, and these girls end up losing the whole of their life, because when you drop, within no time you have a second kid, a third kid, a fourth kid, and your peers in the urban areas are now at the university when you are a mother of 5 kids, Madam Speaker. I would want to add on the move of the motion to look into including reproductive health as part of the curriculum in this, and especially in the rural areas, Madam Speaker. And with that, I beg to support. Thank you.
The Honorable Beatrice Lachi, member for Dagoretti North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also want to thank the motion and to really appreciate that when we look at how things are moving, Madam Speaker, and to see how the country is moving, today you realize that we had our sons and daughters yesterday, Madam Speaker, and I know I talked about it, and I'm still talking about it because as a mother, I'm wondering, where are we? And why are we doing this? But having said that, Madam Speaker, we have to ask ourselves in this House, what has really made us come? What shall we be remembered with? Yesterday we were told, we as women, Madam Speaker, I think we are the ones now who have decided to take what used to be the men's way of doing things in Parliament. It was not a very kind thing, but we took it, and we appreciate that we have to change, Madam Speaker. I'm saying this because I am like taken aback, and I'm like, can we try ourselves now? Because we want to see women more in Parliament. We don't want that to become the main thing that we shall be remembered with in the 13th Parliament. So I'm hoping all of us will just reflect back and see how to deal with our own inner reflection and how to deal with everything that is happening. So, Madam Speaker, I know I was to speak on the motion, but I just felt there is need for me to just speak on this and to say that I think we are the leaders, we are a role model of many other Kenyans out there, and therefore, we just need to think of how to go back to the roots that we were brought up with in terms of understanding and appreciating the rules of the House. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say that on behalf of women, being a woman leader, I think we want to apologize to the Speaker on behalf of all, and also to request that even as we move forward, can we now move forward as a team and appreciate ourselves in this House as women? And we can disagree, but I think we don't need to go beyond that disagreeing. We can disagree. We are allowed to disagree. That's why it's a house of debate. And so, as we disagree, let us respect just one another and our opinions. We might have sharp opinions, but we don't need to go beyond. And we are praying to the Speaker that in that Hansard, because every time it will be remembered in the archives of the 13th Parliament that the Speaker spoke to us on his chair. And we are praying that will be the last the Speaker will ever tell us that again. So for me, I just want to say, as women leaders, let us just reflect and remember we must pass the 2/3 in this House, and it has to pass. And we don't want anything or anyone to use that as a word of saying, when we are many of us, we might be not of agreeing. Lastly, Madam Speaker, I want to beg that this pathway that we normally, that is with Bunge Towers, to be opened so that when we are going to the committees, we can go through the pathway. Because all the roads the other side have been closed. So can they open the pathway for us so that we be crossing down and we just enter the Bunge Towers for that? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I'm assuming that the clerks have taken note of that, so that you can notify the clerk of the National Assembly. The Honorable, I think I'll give one more chance to the Honorable Dorothy Ikiara. Time is up. Let's just give her a minute since she's been there since morning. Thank you. You may proceed, Honorable Dorothy Ikiara.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand in support of this very important motion, and I want to thank Madam Honorable Njeri from Kirinyaga for bringing this very important topic in this House. Madam Speaker, I support this motion first by highlighting that children are like wet cement. Whatever you teach or show them, it sticks on them. Madam Speaker, I'm saying this in view of even the new curriculum, the competence-based curriculum, where children are more oriented to doing things for themselves as opposed to the yesteryears where the teacher was a know-it-all. Madam Speaker, I want to say this: comprehensive health education that should be a core subject in our schools. As I sit here today, Madam Speaker, the school curriculum is tailored towards having this particular topic in all the classes, all the grades across the schools, because hygiene and health are in the syllabus.
Just give her 2 minutes to complete her sentence, please.
Madam Speaker, I will very quickly say health education is important because it covers the physical, mental, and social wellness of school learners. Schools are therefore the ideal setting for health programs. Madam Speaker, we are raising up a generation where thousands and thousands of our children are going to waste, and due simply because nobody is responsible in their wellness. Madam Speaker, I want to say the mental, sexual habits, and other habits that affect the health status of a learner. The best place that they can be placed is in school. And the only way we can be able to do this, Madam Speaker, is by ensuring that comprehensive health education is taught as a core subject in our schools. Madam Speaker, I support this motion, and I want to say, if already it is in the syllabus, let it be enhanced, let the curriculum content be well tailored in such a way that it can be able to catch the needs and the rising needs of our children of today, more so on mental health, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I now call upon the mover to reply. You have 10 minutes to reply, but you can also donate the time to somebody else. Thank you. Yes, you've donated 2 minutes to Honorable Wanjiku. She may proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support this motion, but I want to put some information to the floor that time and again such a good debate has not seen the light of the day because of misconception of the ideas. A similar debate or a bill was in the Senate, I think in the 12th Parliament through Honorable Susan Kehika, the governor for Nakuru. A similar debate has been in Yala when I was in Yala 4 and even in Yala 3. It has never seen the day's light. And when you look at this comprehensive education, it's basically speaking on comprehensive, including social, mental, and other rights of awareness. But time and again, some members, not necessarily from Parliament, even outside, they have just picked one subject, like sex, and they have thought it is not good to teach sex to our students, and then the debate has fallen out of the way. So I want to pray that the members in this house have debated very well, and I hope it will go through, and I hope from the motion she will take it further. She can get ideas from the senators and the members previously who had similar debate, and we can have a comprehensive education on health awareness for our students. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
You proceed, Honorable Member for Kirinyaga.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I see quite a number of members would have liked to contribute to this, but unfortunately, I also want to ensure that I highlight the issues that were raised when other members made their contributions. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank all members who took their time to give their very meaningful contributions on this floor in regard to this motion. Honorable Speaker, this motion was brought forth because of a program we ran in Kirinyaga County dubbed the Triple Threat Action. It was speaking to our children in the schools on matters to do with mental health, sexual and gender-based violence, Honorable Speaker, and drug and substance abuse, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, like my colleagues have said, it is very important that this topic is not lost in the noise of sex education only. The topic is comprehensive health education. And Honorable Speaker, the member for Langata asked how comprehensive is it? It is going to deal with issues of mental health, emphasis on social welfare. We have agreed that we are in the era of social media and our children need guidance. They have a teacher who is called social media. Social media does not care about the age. At the tap of a finger, our children can access harmful information if they're not guided in the right and structured manner, Honorable Speaker. They can be misled by that information. It is in regard to also our values, the rights of our children in regard to their bodies and our culture. It is also in regard to drug and substance abuse and developing healthy relationships, healthy eating behaviors, among others, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there were concerns raised about the age to which we would prefer this to be introduced at. Honorable Speaker, we have curriculum developers. They will ensure that anything that is packaged for our children is age appropriate. Honorable Speaker, the way you communicate or the way you package information for say a 7-year-old is not the way you package information for an 11 or 12-year-old or post-teen. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this will enhance retention in our schools by reducing teenage pregnancies. Honorable Speaker, this will empower our children on their rights and protect them from sexual exploitation. Honorable Speaker, we have seen and there has been an uproar on the social platforms in regard to exploitation of young children by even their grandfathers, Honorable Speaker. I remember in the recent week we had an issue from Moranga where a 2-year-old had been defiled by their grandfather, Honorable Speaker. And we must agree that at this era and age of information from all other sources, we need to ensure that it is regulated, Honorable Speaker. This motion will mitigate drug and substance abuse in our school-going children, Honorable Speaker. It will promote healthy relationships among them, Honorable Speaker. I know it has been a taboo for eons in regard to our parents talking to our children about how they can relate, the girl and the boy child. It does not have to be sexual, Honorable Speaker. That relationship can be healthy. They can benefit from each other, Honorable Speaker. They need to be guided because at the end of the day, they will grow into young adults and they will have, we know the natural order of things, Honorable Speaker, is that they will engage perhaps when the age is appropriate in a healthy relationship, Honorable Speaker. So we need to talk to them instead of burying our heads in the sand, Honorable Speaker, and trying to pretend, you know, back in the day, if my grandmother saw me with a boy, she would say, I don't want to see you with that boy. And I mean, there was no reason. There is no harm. I am seated to the member, Nimrod, and there is no harm in sitting next to him, Honorable Speaker. You know, a girl child does not get pregnant by sitting next to a boy child, Honorable Speaker. But we need to talk to them and tell them, if you engage in a sexual activity at this age, your education is going to derail. You might get sexually transmitted infections, Honorable Speaker. That is what my motion is about, Honorable Speaker. It will also minimize and promote mental health among our young people. We know that mental health is a major topic. We passed a law in the last parliament which was very robust, but we do not have the infrastructure to implement the same, Honorable Speaker. Let our children be told that, you know, life comes with its pressures, and those pressures do not mean that you should take action and maybe take your life or feel that you do not have the will to live anymore. And Honorable Speaker, I beg to indulge members. I beg to ask them, let us look into the welfare of our sensational topics by the media on sex. It is not a motion to teach our children to practice sex, surely. I am an advocate of the High Court. I am minded of the welfare of our children and guided by the law. It will be within the law. There is no harm in talking to our children, because at the end of the day, like I have said, they have another teacher. So the question I want to ask these members, will we give them the right teacher? The right teacher is in the schools, the right teacher that is within the law, that is guided, that will talk to them in regard to our culture and in respect of our societal values. Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I beg to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We will defer the question to a later time. I think we can move to the next order.
Order number 12, motion, establishment of a National Cancer Prevention and Control Fund.
Honorable Timothy Toroitich, you may proceed. And maybe before you proceed, let me recognize the presence of Ilpori Primary School from Narok West constituency, Narok County. Welcome. Honorable Member, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to prosecute this very important motion. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that, aware that Article 43(1)(a) of the Constitution provides for the right of every person to access the highest attainable standard of health, which includes the right to health care services. Further, aware that cancer is among the leading causes of death in the country, noting that although the budgetary allocation for health care services is progressive, it is inadequate to cater for cancer prevention and care across the country. Further, noting that cancer control in the country is hampered by inadequate cancer care infrastructure and limited special human resource capacity, recognizing that a significant number of cancer patients do not complete the prescribed treatment due to high cost of cancer management. Further, recognizing that the Cancer Prevention and Control Act 2012 seeks to promote access to quality and affordable diagnostic and treatment services for persons with cancer, and to ensure sustainable capacity for the prevention and control of cancer, this House resolves that the government, through the National Treasury, establishes a National Cancer Prevention and Control Fund to promote prevention, control, and treatment of cancer in the country. Madam Speaker, cancer is a menace in this country. Cancer has killed so many people in this country. Cancer has orphaned so many children in this country. Madam Speaker, today, cancer is an equivalent of a death sentence in this country. Honorable Speaker, it should prick the conscience of this nation. It should prick the conscience of this Honorable House. Madam Speaker, it is time that this House takes deliberate and intentional mechanisms of sorting out the cancer menace in this country. Madam Speaker, many members here have been called to fundraisings when we attend several functions in our constituencies, majorly to fundraise for cancer. Madam Speaker, we have invested in so many things in this country. We have invested in agriculture. We have invested in education. We have invested in so many areas. Madam Speaker, there is a problem in terms of investment in cancer infrastructure in this country. Madam Speaker, the statistics are glaring. And I want to read out this House so that we get how nasty cancer has killed our people. Madam Speaker, according to International Agency for Research in Cancer, IARC, Global Can report of 2018. Madam Speaker, in 2018, there were 47,887 cases, new cases annually of cancer in this country. And out of the 47,000 in 2018, the mortality rate of the 47,000 was 32,987. Honorable Speaker, that accounts to almost 90% of those new cases die out of cancer. Madam Speaker, that was in 2018. The current projection in this country is that almost 100,000 people die annually out of cancer in this country. Honorable Speaker, if you break down those statistics, it means if it is 90,000 per year, if it is 100,000 per year, then the mortality rate is 90,000 people die of cancer every year in this country. That means in every month we lose 7,500 people. Per day we lose 250 people in this country out of cancer. Per hour we lose 10 people in this country out of cancer. Madam Speaker, if that doesn't prick the conscience of these honorable members, if that doesn't prick the conscience of this country, if that doesn't prick the conscience of this government, then I don't know what does. Because losing 10 people per hour out of cancer in this country, Madam Speaker, that is a national tragedy. It is a national disaster of monumental proportions. Madam Speaker, we have a progressive legislation in this country known as the Cancer Prevention and Control Act of 2012. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, that law, as established, is a skeleton. We need to give flesh to that particular skeleton of our legislation. Madam Speaker, the reason for that is the following. One is that that particular legislation creates a National Cancer Institute of Kenya, NCI, which is an equivalent of the US National Cancer Institute. But, Madam Speaker, it is only an agency or a parastatal, but it is only a toothless bulldog that cannot bite because it is micromanaged by the Ministry of Health. Madam Speaker, it will surprise you that if you Google and you check the website of NCI, Kenya, National Cancer Institute, they do not have statistics of cancer in Kenya in the year 2013. What they are relying on, Madam Speaker, are the statistics of International Agency for Research in Cancer that was done in 2018. As we speak, the current projects that I've given here are merely projections, but not founded through research by the National Cancer Institute of Kenya. So, Honorable Speaker, I also call upon the committee of this House that is in charge of health to critically invite that committee to appear before them. I mean, the institute, the NCI, the National Cancer Institute, the committee invites them to appear before their committee to be able to ascertain the issues that have been raised in the report. Madam Speaker, the gist of this motion is to establish a fund to promote, to prevent, to control, and to treat cancer. Madam Speaker, the traffic that is in JKIA of our people seeking treatment in India is very huge. And the reason is that as a country, we have not been able to provide adequate and a comprehensive health care for cancer. Madam Speaker, research has shown that if cancer is detected at an early stage, then it can be able to be treated. The problem is that cancer in Kenya is detected at the last stages, and therefore it makes it very difficult for it to be treated. And if, Madam Speaker, we can be able to pass this particular motion and create that particular fund, then it will mean that people who cannot be able to afford the treatment of cancer can be treated in this country using the fund. So, Honorable Speaker, I invite the conscience of this House. I invite the conscience of this government to consider taking seriously the issue of cancer in this country. Members here have lost their relatives. Members here are taking care of families that have lost their relatives out of cancer. So it is incumbent upon this House to consider creating this special fund, thereafter allocating its resources in subsequent financial years so that we can be able to wipe out or we can be able to manage cancer so that we can be able to assist our people get proper treatment. Madam Speaker, I beg to rest the prosecution of this motion, and I'm calling upon my good friend, Honorable Duncan Maina Madenge, popular known as DMM, the MP for Nyeri Town, to second this motion. Thank you.
Very well, the Honorable Madenge.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to second the motion on the formation of the Cancer Fund. Madam Speaker, the funding in our health sector is inadequate despite several declarations that the Kenyan government is a signatory to, and especially the Abuja Declaration that requires us to put up to 15% of our national budget to health. Even more worrying is the fact that we are only at 7%, progressive as it may be. But even when we go to the national GDP, we find that only 2% of our GDP goes towards health funding. Madam Speaker, the cost of cancer treatment in Kenya, according to a research paper in 2018, assessing the direct medical costs of cancer care, revealed that the cost of cancer therapy varied with the type of cancer. Patients on chemotherapy alone require Kenya shillings 140,000, while those on treatment for surgery require 130,000 Kenya shillings. Those on radiotherapy require 120,000 shillings. However, you find that radiotherapy will take up to 10 sessions. Chemotherapy could take up to 15 sessions. Some patients who have a combination of the three treatments, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and surgery, require well above Kenya shillings 500,000. Another study in 2018 showed that the cost of treating stage 3 breast cancer and cervical cancer, dependent on the treatment followed, whether it was a curative or a palliative approach. The cost of cancer generally increased by stage. Madam Speaker, the public sector cost of treating stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3 breast cancer ranges from Kenya shillings 190,000 to Kenya shillings 250,000. And the cost of cervical cancer ranges from Kenya shillings 120,000 to 250,000. Patients' payments in the private sector generally are 10 times more than the public sector costs. Palliative care for 6 months for cancer patients in the public sector will generally range up to 40,000 Kenya shillings, while in the private facilities, it is up to Kenya shillings 200,000. On the economic front, Madam Speaker, cancer is a growing problem. It is affecting the nuclear family, extended families, employers, and society, encountering financial loss from relevant disability, reduced quality of life, and premature death. It is estimated that up to 50% of patients with cancer do not seek services in this country due to lack of money. And even the majority of those who end up seeking cancer, which is up to 70%, do so late because they cannot raise the money needed for cancer treatment. By the time they have the money, it is already too late, with the disease having advanced to higher stages, which is even more costlier. Among those who seek services, Madam Speaker, their personal lifetime savings are completely exhausted. They turn to assets, eventually unsecured loans, and as a last resort, they have community fundraisings to finance their illness. Unfortunately, by that time, they are always almost on their deathbed. The indirect cost of cancer treatment, such as transport, accommodation, add to the financial toll. The higher cost of cancer drugs, coupled with the drug shortages, even when the finances are available, complicates matters for cancer patients and cancer care in our country. Madam Speaker, facilitated financial access to patients with cancer will increasingly most likely lead to earlier diagnosis and better outcomes, and reduce costs as opposed to the current state where up to 70% of cases access treatment late, requiring more elaborate investigations and much more expensive treatment options with poorer outcomes. Madam Speaker, a very high percentage of cervical cancer patients, and I'm hoping that the honorable ladies of this House will listen to these statistics. A high percentage of cervical cancer patients referred to radiotherapy do not access the treatment because they cannot afford it. Even those who do access the treatment do not undergo the entire treatment protocol because they cannot finance it. Multiple investigations, radiotherapy, chemotherapy are the main components of direct costs for cancer patients. Madam Speaker, cancer is causing a heavy economic burden with adverse social implications beyond the death of the cancer victims. Studies have demonstrated that orphans of cancer patients have a higher under 5 mortality rate in this country than those than other children. This has a considerable impact on communities. More broadly, the Cancer Fund will be an appropriate response to the achievement of SDG goal number 3.4, whose target is reducing premature mortality from non-communicable diseases such as cancer by 1/3 by 2030. Madam Speaker, in the year 2010, our then health minister and current Kisumu governor, the Honorable Anyang' Nyong'o, disclosed to the nation that he had prostate cancer and sought treatment in California, USA, at the Helen Diller Family Comprehensive Care Center and was treated by radiation. Madam Speaker, a year later, in 2011, the Honorable Beth Mogo, then Minister for Public Health and Sanitation, similarly revealed to the nation she had breast cancer and was treated in the USA, requiring both surgery and radiation. Madam Speaker, at this point, allow me to congratulate the Honorable Beth Mogo for starting the Beth Mogo Cancer Care Foundation, which assists patients with cancer and their families. Madam Speaker, in both these cases, these Kenyan VIPs must have received ex gratia payments to support their surgeries, having exhausted their insurance medical cover. Madam Speaker, without doubt, it is almost always possible that their cabinet colleagues raised money for their treatment to augment their financial and express their financial requirements and express financial solidarity. Madam Speaker, today I am asking this House to start with the ordinary Kenyans. Ordinary families, like the family of Juria Kevanya in Nyarugomo village, who is undergoing cancer treatment at KU Hospital, cancer of the spine. This girl, this single mother, who is jobless, could never have had any hope of accessing cancer if the local community has not fundraised for her 3 times in the last 1.5 years. Madam Speaker, I am urging this House to start with the family of Eric Mwangi Kimanga, who has throat cancer in Nyarugomo village. Again, last week, the community had to raise for him 700,000 to access treatment at either the Nakuru Cancer Center or Kenyatta University Hospital. These people, even before we talk about the cost of treatment, cannot afford the cost of the expensive diagnostic procedures that are required. Honorable Speaker, these examples are endless. Every member of parliament today in this house, and those who will contribute to this motion, have had to engage in similar fundraisings. Madam Speaker, in July 2022, the National Cancer Task Force recommended that we activate the Cancer Fund. And therefore, our motion, Madam Speaker, comes to give weight and support the various policies and legislations that will contribute towards enhanced and effective cancer care in this country. Madam Speaker, 3 decades ago, our forefathers had the foresight of setting the Kenya Hospital Authority Trust Fund that today has 1.7 billion shillings lying with the Unclaimed Assets Authority, a fund meant for health care that could finance the setting up of cancer care, comprehensive cancer care centers of excellence.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member, for seconding the motion. You did not go on record to second the motion, so I'll give you an opportunity to do so.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I submit and second this motion.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I now propose the question that aware that Article 42(1)(a) of the Constitution provides the right of every person to access the highest attainable standard of health, which includes the right to health care services. Further aware that cancer is among the leading causes of death in the country, noting that although the budgetary allocation for healthcare services is progressive, it is inadequate to cater for cancer prevention and care across the country. Further, noting that cancer control in the country is hampered by inadequate cancer care infrastructure and limited specialized human resource capacity. Recognizing that a significant number of cancer patients do not complete the prescribed treatment due to high cost of cancer management, further recognizing that Cancer Prevention and Control Act 2012 seeks to promote access to quality and affordable diagnostic and treatment services for persons with cancer, and to ensure sustainable capacity for prevention and control of cancer, this House resolves that the government, through the National Treasury, establishes a National Cancer Prevention and Control Fund to promote prevention, control, and treatment of cancer in the country. Honorable members, now we start the debate. We are not going to put the question. We are going to start debate. And honorable members, the first opportunity goes to my boss, the Honorable Boss, member for Uasin Gishu County.
Thank you. Hold on. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to be able to lend my voice in this very important motion. Honorable members, I actually got off the Speaker's chair because this is a topic that is very close to my heart. I know that the motion by Honorable Timothy Toroitich is requesting the House to resolve that the government, through the National Treasury, establishes a National Cancer Prevention and Control Fund to promote the prevention and control and treatment of cancer in the country. Honorable members, I wish to bring your attention to the fact that in the last parliament, in the 12th parliament, I brought a petition to this House. In that petition, I was seeking for Parliament or for the National Assembly to order the Pest Products, the Pest Control Products Board to remove 267 pesticides off the market in this country. those pesticides have been confirmed in Europe, in the US, and the UK to cause cancer. In fact, more than 20 years ago, a farmer in the US was paid $250 million for developing cancer as a result of using a pesticide that was commonly known as Roundup. But that pesticide continues to be sold in Kenya today. Reason being, the Pest Products Control Board in Kenya is in bed with the agrochemical companies. I am not ashamed to say that they continue to support that trade. In that petition that I brought to Parliament, I had over 10 professors in Kenya who helped me undertake the research. And when we undertook the research, all we said is if Europe, America, and the UK have removed those products from their market on account that it causes cancer, why do we allow it in our country? In fact, the law in the US and the UK allows the companies that are producing or manufacturing those pesticides to be able, they are allowed to manufacture it for export, not for use in their own country, for export to a country that permits it, or in fact, to put it even more clearly, for a country that is stupid enough to accept products that cause cancer. And Kenya is one of those countries. And the people who have the mandate under the law is the Pest Products Control Board. That petition, I brought it to this parliament. It was approved by the parliamentary committee. Unfortunately, the parliamentary committee made a decision that they ordered the Pest Products Control Board to take measures to remove them off the market. So far, out of the 267 products that I requested be removed from the shelf, 7 have been removed. In a period of 4 years, they've only removed 7. I had the opportunity that I visited the board myself to their offices. And I went to a meeting there. I demanded to see the CEO. And when I asked the CEO, why have you not removed this from the market? She said, we want to undertake further research. So I asked her, what research can you undertake that has not been undertaken by those other first world countries? I asked them that the cases in Kenya usually, for example, when it was world science and research in peer-reviewed medical journals found that hormone replacement therapy was causing breast cancer and ovarian cancer, our gynecologists in Kenya did not do further research. They simply stopped prescribing the medicine, and the chemists stopped stocking them in the shelf. When world science in peer-reviewed medical journals said that certain cough syrups were damaging our children's lungs, the pediatricians did not do further research. They simply stopped prescribing it and pulled it off the shelf. So the Pest Products Control Board has refused to save the lives of Kenyans. So Honorable Timothy Toroitich, no matter how much you say we should put money into preventing or treating cancer, first we must start by the most obvious. Remove the products that are causing cancer. And the companies that are selling them in Kenya, I remember I was once told that I should not name them, but it's Bayer and Dow. Dow is an American company, Bayer is a German company. I have had the occasion to speak to members of the German parliament, and I told them, you must stop the manufacture of those products. Because these countries, we are working with them, but yet they are selling us poison that is causing cancer. So instead of saying, let us put more money in cancer, just stop the 267 products. When the Pest Products Control Board did not act, I then made a statement in this parliament seeking the removal from office of all the members of the Pest Products Control Board out of office because of reckless endangerment of the lives of Kenyans. So as I stand here, honorable members, I want you to help me shame the members of the Pest Products Control Board. The research has been done. We launched a book called the Pesticide Atlas. We have a document done that shows which products are bad, which products cause cancer. And if other countries are paying damages for those people who have developed cancer as a result, why is it that Kenya is still allowing the sale of those products in our market? Also, I had the occasion last year in November to hold a cancer screening medical camp in Uasin Gishu County. The number of people who were found to have cancer were actually, all of them were farmers. Because this is getting into our food system, it's getting into our water systems, it's getting into our bodies through the food that we consume. And therefore, cancer cannot be dealt with just by treatment alone. It must be by prevention. And the buck stops with the Pest Products Control Board, who have failed to remove the 267 pesticide products off our shelves. The argument that they made when they threatened that they would bump me off life if I continued with this crusade is that, oh, there will be starvation in Kenya. But Kenya imports 6,000 other types of pesticides that are safe. So if we remove 267, this country will continue to be able to have food security. So, honorable members, I plead with you to join me on this issue of summoning the Pest Products Control Board, call them to book, remove them from office, because they are the causes of cancer in this country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. Asante.
Well spoken, the Honorable Boss. Honorable Fatuma Mohammed, member for Migori County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. I congratulate my sister, Honorable Boss, for the sentiment she has made about the pesticide companies that are selling harmful products to Kenyans. And if I may add to that, there is no need looking for cure when we cannot do protection. We need to prevent our people first before we look for treatment. It makes no sense looking for treatment for what we have caused ourselves. And as we all know, cancer actually has no treatment. It can be prevented, and the treatments that are there are very minimal. And as an African country, by the time we get to realize that we have cancer, in most cases at a late stage, when you are actually ill, stage 3 and 4 is when we realize we have cancer. Now, instead of working so much on curing something that the world outside there knows very well that curing is minimal, let us work more on protection and preventing cancer. It is unfortunate that Honorable Madam Boss says that the most people in her county that were tested are farmers, and farmers are the people who feed us. And they're the ones who are going to die first, if I may use that word, before us. So who will feed us? We are going to finish a generation that is very important to us. As much as we are looking for cure, I think the insurance companies also, the health insurance companies also need to be lenient a bit on Kenyans. When you go to take an insurance cover, you do fill a form to state which diseases you have. You could be working with cancer and you don't know. And if you take that cover, within 3 months, unfortunately, if you happen to fall sick, they will not cover you because there's a grace period for covering such treatments. And so they will tell you, this is a terminal disease, we cannot cover you. Unfortunately, you did not know that you have the disease. So I think the insurance firms also should reconsider that this is something that is beyond us. It's not like these other diseases that we can surely have prevention easily or have cure easily. So I request that this government honestly should take this matter so serious. I think cancer is the #1 killer disease. Though they say malaria, but malaria is curable, even with herbs. But cancer, we don't have cure for cancer in Kenya. And it is one thing that is really making Kenyans poor. Because once you have a cancer patient, your form is sure to be signed as you're going to run broke, no matter how rich you are. Now, a disease that cannot be cured with a poor person cannot even maintain cancer. Why don't we work more on prevention than working more on cure? We tend to take a lot of our time considering that the only known cancer in Kenya mostly is cervical cancer. But even our young girls need to be told, and I can see that there are some students here. I am addressing you, my dear little girls, that mama needs to teach you that early sex is a call for cancer, because the cervix is still too small, and when you start engaging in dirty things, you are inviting a disease that has no cure. Other than HIV, cancer will ruin you. HIV is a little bit manageable, but still it has no cure, just like cancer. And when you get cancer, you're guaranteed that your life will be a very difficult life. So dear schoolgirls who are up there, please be reminded that cancer, you are a candidate, an old mama like me is a candidate, a grandmammy is a candidate. So dear Kenyans, let us take the cancer problem a serious issue. When Madam Boshole, Honorable Madam Boshole, has done her work, a difficult job to bring to our attention, and the government takes it lightly and does nothing about it, it's quite unfortunate. It was the responsibility of the government to act with immediate effect. Close those companies. There is nothing else that they can do, telling us that they're still going around. How are they going to know if this problem is true or real? Are they going to test it on human beings and see how many people are dying for them to say, yes, it's a bad thing, we need to get it off the shelves? And I think the European countries, if you cannot have it for your country, it cannot be good for us when it's bad for you. So stop treating Africans like we are not human beings. We are not lesser human beings. What is bad for you is bad for us. You have 5 senses like us. You have same organs like us. The only difference is the skin color, which is outside. So please stop killing us when you're preventing in your own country. You're putting the right channels not to get cancer in your country. The lifespan for an African person is always longer, fortunately enough, than the Western countries because of the kind of foods that we have. And so we should encourage our farmers, with those who have the right education, to tell the farmers the right food that can help our wananchi to use more to prevent cancer. Cancer is not prevented by medicine, it is prevented by lifestyle and the food that we eat. So dear Kenyans, let us take this a very serious issue and teach both young, old, and our neighbors that cancer is a serious disease and prevention is better than cure. I support the motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Member for Migori. The Honorable Jematia.
Thank
the
you.
Honorable Florence Jematia. And before she does that, Honorable members, when I was on my feet, I realized that the Honorable Mwashako and the Honorable Jematia, you are walking around.
Sorry.
I just want for order in the House that kindly do not repeat that. Thank you very much. You may proceed.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and most obliged. And I really want to say that I respect the chair and Speaker's chair. Madam Speaker, just to add on what honorable members who have spoken before me, is that it is very unfortunate that in this time and era we are discussing about the effect of cancer not only in Kenya but in Africa. Madam Speaker, as we all know, that cancer is a very dangerous and incurable disease. We have learned from time to time that there is no way that this disease can be treated without proper measures on prevention. Prevention means that in our lifestyle, we have to go back to understand that this cancer is generated because of most of the the lifestyle we have, the type of food that we are accessing and we are eating now. During our grandfathers and our tradition, way of life, we used to have very systematic and very organized way of, our tradition food, for instance. I remember when I grew up, we never used to get this junk food that we get access to every day, that we buy for our children, a lot of sugars, a lot of, we have a lot of excess obesity because our children don't exercise so much. And most of these things is another, avenue for us to get infected or get these diseases, especially cancer, for instance. We used to have very nutritious food like millet, like sorghum, that today in our daily consumption, we don't interact with it. What happened with our generation? The generation that used to give us proper nutritious food. Today, if you go to in a normal family for breakfast, you get a lot of generic food, for instance. We get a lot of, oil-made food. We get a lot of, the food that it is processed food many times. So this is what exposes us so much to these diseases that it is very incurable. And cancer, Madam Speaker, has been a problem. If you go to our homes and our constituents, the problems that our people get through cancer and treatment is a lot. And it is very expensive to treat cancer, Madam Speaker. I also want to say that through your indulgence on a clinical clinic that you did, I want to concur with you that Wasingushu was just part of the segment that you did. If you go through the system and also try and do the same throughout the country and counties, you realize there are many cases of this. And many times you realize, Madam Speaker, if you go to Wasingishu, probably it is because of fertilizers and other things. You go to other areas, you realize there were some chemicals that were probably, disposed, like asbestos. There are areas that are affected, like in Northeastern. You go to areas like, water contamination, and all these things end up causing problems to the people, especially in the health, because chemicals is a key contributor to the causes of cancer. And I want to also echo what Honorable Fatuma said, that we need to prevent these issues and these problems before we start treating them. Because the earlier we prevent it, it is going to be better for us. More so, in the areas of insurance, I also want to reiterate that insurance companies have also been part of the problem, because you cannot be selective, especially when you know that this is a very terminal disease and you are saying you cannot treat, because treating them is going to cost you more. But then why am I paying these insurances? And it's because diseases like cancer is not, does not give you some indication early. We lost many people, especially even members of parliament before. I have my former member of parliament, Honorable the late Grace Kipchoim, and may her soul rest in peace. She was affected and was, she was sick because cancer had, it was a patient for cancer, and we have lost many people. And this has also left the families of these patients in dire problem and poverty. Because at the end of the day, we use a lot of money to treat them, and then when the patient passes, the family becomes poor because they have exhausted most of the resources they had. And this is something that, as government and parliament, we need to sit down and recorrect where we have gone wrong and try and treat it and mostly prevent it before these problems start. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mosop, Honourable Abraham Kiru.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute on this motion of establishing Cancer Prevention and Control Fund. Madam Speaker, I want to thank Honorable Troitich for coming up with this motion for all of us to consider. A lot of Kenyans, Madam Speaker, have died and continues to die on a daily basis due to cancer. And the reason why most of these people die, Madam Speaker, is because they cannot afford the cost of treating cancer. The average cost of chemo in this country averages between per session 12,000 to 200,000 per session. An average Kenyan cannot afford it. On a weekly basis, if they were to use the regular drugs, it will cost them an average of 50,000 shillings a week to continue treating cancer. In this country, NHIF covers cancer, but it is maxed at 600,000 shillings. So if you go for 3 sessions, you will have maxed your cover with NHIF. And as such, once you max your cover of 600,000, it will be upon you to come up with the rest of the funding. And as such, because most of the citizens cannot afford to have that kind of money, will forego the treatment and choose to stay at home and wait on their fate. Some will choose to use traditional medicine. Some will just wait for death. And as such, as a nation, it is time that we sit down and think of ways on how we can actually prevent cancer. The number one cancer in this country, which is breast cancer, followed by cervical cancer, followed by the stomach cancer. These are cancers which are very common with women. And as such, because women are very productive and they contribute to this nation, I think we ought to sit down as a nation and just consider what should we do. The Kenya Cancer Policy of 2019-2030 provides for the framework to comprehensively address cancer control in Kenya through systematic implementation of evidence-based intervention, prevention, through screening, timely diagnosis, treatment, supervisorship, and also palliative care. But unfortunately, these are only ideas and suggestions. When it becomes real to implement, none of these ideas and suggestions which were given are implemented. And as such, I think we need to sit down and consider why should we allow people to die as we sit down as a nation and watch. NHIF needs to review their coverage. When you have NHIF super cover, once you've exhausted, like now, they allow you, yes, you can go to India, you can go to Apollo, and they will cover, but they will not cover, of course, your travel. They will not cover, once you stay there, yes, they will cover. But once you've exhausted your expenses in India, they tell you now, we've reached the maximum, consider selling your land, consider doing your fundraising. And it comes to us as members of parliament, we end up doing a lot of fundraisers to save lives. But as a nation, we should consider coming up or establishing the Cancer Prevention and Control Fund so that on instances like this, Kenyans will be saved and many lives will continue to live in this country. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. The Honorable Lillian Gogo, Member for Rangwe.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I want to thank my dear colleague for invoking a motion on matters cancer prevention and control, that it is important that we establish a fund to prevent and control, and always prevention is better than cure. So I rise to support this motion, Honorable Speaker. And it is known, Honorable Speaker, that cancer is a problem world over, and I want to thank my dear friend Honorable Boss for articulating very well some of the failures we've had as a country on allowing products that have been condemned not to be used in other places, and we continue using them, and they are well-known carcinogens, Honorable Speaker. And I want to insist that the government moves with speed
to bring these people to book. They must be held accountable for feeding Kenyans with the products which they know very well are carcinogens. Allow me, Honorable Speaker, also to mention some physical carcinogens that still exist. We have some chemical carcinogens that still just lie around in most of our learning institutions. The learning institutions that were established earlier, Honorable Speaker, they still have asbestos roofing. And it is well known that products that come out of asbestos are carcinogens. We have several people who are living under asbestos-based roofs. I don't know what NEMA is doing about removing these asbestos roofs and also disposing them. We in my own constituency, Honorable Speaker, at Asumbi TTC, I have so many asbestos roofs, and this is a learning institution, a national learning institution that is holding young people, Honorable Speaker. We have biological carcinogens, and one member has already talked about cancer of the cervix. Honorable Speaker, cancer of the cervix is a sexually transmitted disease. Cancer of the cervix is a sexually transmitted disease with men as carriers and women as sufferers. And I want to insist that if we don't have behavior change, as much as we want to talk about cancer, and we still continue as a nation to involve ourselves with promiscuity, we continue to misbehave with our sexuality, then cancer is not going to leave this country. However much money we put as a fund to mitigate on the effects of cancer. So I want to urge Kenyans, I want to urge us for people to go for screening for the viruses that cause the cancer of the cervix. And when it comes to curing of cancer, Honorable Speaker, it is very, very expensive. So the best approach to have is prevention and control. Even lifestyle, there is obesity. We sit around and we get overweight. And I want to also appreciate the way these motions have been brought. There was a comprehensive healthcare motion that preceded this. And we should start early by training even our young people on issues that propagate cancer. Or we have cancer in our foods, we have cancer, carcinogens in foods, by way of aflatoxins, Honorable Speaker, we have carcinogens in water, we have carcinogens in drugs, but the worst bit is lifestyle. So, as much as we are talking matters cancer, as much as Honorable Speaker, we are concerned about the death of cancer, many people even this week. And I want to pray for the soul of my friend Rosalind Damian, who is a gospel singer and arrested on the basis of cancer of the brain, and she had breast cancer, and she had leukemia. These are cancers. May her soul rest in peace, and the rest of many Kenyans who have passed on because of cancer this week. And it leaves many orphans, Honorable Speaker. And I want to insist, and I want to say again, that as leadership, any forum that we have, even outside there, we should talk about prevention. We should talk about control. There are cancers that just come, Honorable Speaker, due to stress. We have Kenyans who are living under diverse stress. We should have a composed life. We should have peace. We should have a peaceful nation. Right now, Honorable Speaker, Kenyans are a stressed people. And with the high cost of living, Honorable Speaker, it is important that if it comes as a result of disease, then we should prevent these diseases so that Kenyans can live at least in a way that they are able to accommodate in terms of the cost of living. So this is a motion, Honorable Speaker, that has come at a good time, and I rise to support it. But I also say that as a nation, we should come out and even establish a national sports day, a national walking day, probably in 1 month, so that Kenyans can leave their vehicles at home. Kenyans can walk. We can walk. We can have our children walk. We can have our children do long distances, Honorable Speaker. I represent a rural constituency, Honorable Speaker, and times that I have been called to raise funds, and especially for people who have lost their lives because of cancer. You empathize with the position, Honorable Speaker. But if we can have prevention and control, then also it will trickle down on us so that these monies can also be used in other areas. To add on to another point, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that we appreciate those of us who are working, the Kenyans who are working in the medical profession, with the research that they are doing and other researchers that are working on cancer. I would implore the government, Honorable Speaker, that more money should be put in cancer research. More money should be put in our learning medical institutions and otherwise, so that more research is done on local remedies to cancer treatment. Because we depend so much on treatment of cancer. However little it can extend life, it is better than someone dying early. So we should invest in our own research systems. We invest in our own research institution, put more money of this cancer control and prevention fund, put in some money for research. We should have a research component so that we support our learning institution, we support our research institutions, so that we come up with local solutions to cancer issues, local solutions to cancer prevention, local solutions to cancer control. And as I go back on my seat, Honorable Speaker, this is a timely debate, and we want to take care of ourselves. We want to run a healthy nation. We want to learn a responsible nation. We want to stay in a country, Honorable Speaker, where we know that if I do this, I'm likely to get cancer. And if I don't do this, I'm likely to get cancer. And other than cancer, then there are also other diseases that are a problem that also cause cancer. So it should have a wider view, Honorable Speaker. We should have a comprehensive approach in the prevention and control of cancer. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the time, and also allow me, Honorable Speaker, to appreciate the Deputy Speaker boss for her getting into another stage. She had her son get married over the weekend, and when this happened, it is a plus for us women. I thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, Member for Rangwe. The Honorable Paul Biego, Member for Chesumei.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this motion from my good friend, the Honorable Timothy. And as I support Madam Speaker, I would like to put to the attention of this House that when a member brings a motion of this nature, it is for the benefit of the nation. And that is why I support strongly, because of what our people pass through in our constituencies. Cancer has been a problem because many people call us for fundraisers. And by actually creating a fund for the prevention, it is going to ease the burden that we as politicians and even the people back at home, it will ease their burden. It takes me back to the olden days when the government was struggling and advising people to do or to take vaccinations. Now, young children are being vaccinated, and actually mortality rate has decreased because of vaccination, which is prevention. So for the case of cancer, I strongly support this fund to be put in place, because as it says, prevention is better than cure. And as the honorable member was presenting this motion, I actually concur that cancer being a death sentence, when anybody is diagnosed with cancer, then it's as well like a death sentence. And now that it has become so clear that fundraisers are not able to help in terms of the treatment of cancer, then this motion comes at the right time to at least shelve and help our people so that they can be able to actually get prevention before they get cancer. And with the statistics that have been given by the mover, it's extremely clear that the number of cancer patients or those who succumb to cancer is so huge, meaning that even us as a country and as a people, we are losing so many people who would have been potential voters and who would have helped in nation building. So we need to deal with this once and for all so that people are able to get preventive measures. And Madam Speaker, factoring that cancer, the nature of cancer, it grows extremely slowly and has been proved that years or even decades may pass before the cause is noticeably, before you notice the symptoms. And during this time, cancer may go undetected. Thus, the screening programs are vital for detecting cancers at early stages, and at that time, of course, treatment options are more effective. Therefore, we should all stand firm as a house to ensure that Kenyans get funds and to ensure that we don't lose our lovely ones to cancer. So this motion actually, Madam Speaker, will actually help people, especially those who are vulnerable, the poor, those who are not able to actually go for checkups. We know that there is a lot of advertisements, promotions leading to people or an awareness for people to actually go to check their status. But because of the poor state that we find ourselves, or our people even transport alone to the facilities is a problem, it is quite important for us to get this fund and even get it closer to the people in the villages, so that it's very easy for people to go and have preventive measures, to get preventive measures. Madam Speaker, as also the Deputy Speaker was giving her side, Madam Gladys, it's also saddening that we know the causes and yet we still continue wanting to cure, and yet we can prevent. So apart from even preventing, apart from forming the fund or creating the fund, we need to get rid of the pesticides that have been proved to be causing major havoc or causing the cancer. And I also join other members and my colleagues that the Pest Product Control Board should actually be put to speed so that they remove the 267 pesticides and adopt the many, many more which are available and which have been proven
that they are harmless. You would imagine if the study now clearly shows that majority of the cancer patients are those from the farming areas, that will slowly and sooner get into those people also who are in towns, because what we also consume in towns or in the urban areas is from the rural areas. The rural people who are living in rural areas, majority and majority of them actually consume direct, and a greater percentage of the food they eat is from their farms. And that is why probably the study shows that majority and majorly many of them are affected. But we all know that the source of this food we also eat comes from those farms. So the earlier, the better. And that is why I stand here to support my great friend Timothy to establish, or the establishment of a national cancer prevention and control fund. So, Madam Speaker, I would want to go into record in actually saying that this is long overdue, and that the former members who have tried earlier and didn't get the light of the day, let us take this seriously so that the 13th House or the 13th Parliament would go down on record to have actually assisted big time to prevent this menace. We know for sure that many diseases, like somebody has also mentioned, AIDS, now has been contained because of prevention. Many other diseases have been prevented because of prevention. Let's take this opportunity to actually grab this motion, and members, let's all support this so that we have a fund which is set aside for the cancer. Thank you so much, and be blessed.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Charles Ngusia, member for Mwingi West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute and to add my notes on the same motion. I will start thanking my colleague and my good friend, Timothy Torotich, for bringing this motion to the floor of the House. And in fact, it has invoked a lot of issues concerning cancer and cancer management in this country. Madam Speaker, I will begin by noting that cancer is an illness or a disease that is usually associated with physical, social, emotional, and financial ramifications for people who are affected, even to the families who are affected by cancer. And when you hear of cancer, you think of patients who actually fear of death. They fear disfigurement, abandonment, financial hardships, and all those sorts of negativity associated with these diseases, Madam Speaker. And that is why it is very important to debate on this matter and collectively institute establishment of this fund, Madam Speaker. Because I believe that majority of the issues we have been raising here, sometimes cancer is caused by lifestyle. And when I listened to our Deputy Speaker here, it invoked in my mind that we are the architect of our own misery sometimes. Because if something has been done by the Western world, and whatever she petitioned, and it is still existing, Madam Speaker, we should have done away with those carcinogenic products long time ago. And we need to support that eradication, doing away with that thing. Madam Speaker, establishment of this fund through the National Cancer Institute of Kenya, number one, will help the country in collection, analyzation, and also dissemination of data regarding the cancer issues affecting our country, Madam Speaker. I note with concern that most of us, even we don't have data how many patients we have buried through cancer disease. We don't even have data or information on prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of the same, Madam Speaker. So by establishing this fund, we'll empower these institutions and NGOs which have been really keen on doing away with cancer in our country. Madam Speaker, every time we do fundraisings on weekly, daily, and monthly basis, and majority of the families undergo through financial distress and even physical stress. And because the government doesn't have a consolidated fund on the same, Madam Speaker. So this one is going to help family overcome challenges and financial hardships we have been experiencing. And they always say prevention is better than cure. Majority of the people, they perish because of lack of information. By establishing this fund, it will ensure we have cancer counseling centers, and we can have a regular visit of anybody suspecting he or she has got cancer effects, or rather cancer-causing kind of effects, Madam Speaker. So I am supporting this. And we have seen so many Kenyans going to Ahmedabad, that is India, seeking for treatment of cancer. And India has really enjoyed in terms of this because they have adequate facilities and personnel to handle cancer. And one of the cities which is really surviving because of medical issues is Ahmedabad. So by establishing this fund, we'll make sure we have enough researchers who can establish cancer treatment centers. Hence, it will promote what we call medical tourism in our country, and that will be an added advantage of the same. Madam Speaker, also, this is going to create employment in our economy when we do all these things, and we will invest in research, and many of our people who are even unemployed will venture into issues of medical, and it will be very important for us to do a lot of research on these cancer issues, Madam Speaker. I don't want to labor a lot because my colleagues also want to speak on the same. I have seen the need to have this fund in place. And it is important for National Cancer Institute of Kenya to make sure their availability and also their presence is felt across our country. So far, we have an institution, but majority of our patients who are going through this kind of mental, or rather experiencing this disease, they don't even know whether we have got this institute existing in our country. So with those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member for Mwingi West. Honorable members, now the next opportunity will go to the Honorable Dorothy Muthoni, nominated member. Honorable members, I see a lot of interest in this motion, and you know that at the beginning of the motion, we did not make a decision to speak for less time. So people are spending 10 minutes to debate. So you can use your discretion to speak for less minutes so that more people can speak. So I'd like to ask you to be patient. I can see the screen is full, but we'll do our best so that as many of you speak, but that depends on the length of time you're speaking. The Honorable Dorothy, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I too rise to support this very important motion. And I want to thank our brother, Honorable Timothy, MP Marakwet West, for bringing this very important motion. Madam Speaker, it is important for all of us to note that cancer is a monster that is feared.
The Honorable Dorothy doesn't have the mic. What has happened?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, cancer is a monster that we all fear. Madam Speaker, the worst and the most disheartening news that each one of us ever gets, it's when you go to a hospital and the doctor says, I want to test whether you have cancer. Be it you or your relative, that marks the beginning of all your fears and anxiety. Madam Speaker, I know too well that each and every family seated here today, families are in one way or the other affected by this monster. Madam Speaker, I want to say the government of Kenya, through the relevant state departments, and in fulfillment of Article 43 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, confers on every person to get the highest attainable standard of health, to be accessible to all members of the society. However, Madam Speaker, in recognition that cancer is the number 3 cause of mortality, and the second leading cause of all non-communicable diseases in the country, Madam Speaker, and noting that the annual incidents are increasing by the day, Madam Speaker, I want to underscore the fact that we have major cancers that spread across board and they are spotted in all communities. Cervical cancer, prostate cancer is one among the leading cancers in this country. Madam Speaker, when one speaker, the woman rep for Migori, was cautioning our young girls seated in the gallery to take care of their sexual health. Madam Speaker, it is very timely because we are seeing very, very young girls getting cervical cancer. And cervical cancer is one of the cancers that are sexually transmitted. Madam Speaker, I also join her to caution the young girls on matters of sexuality so that they don't fall prey to this very, very devastating disease. Madam Speaker, we are here as a country, very many years after independence, still talking of a disease that is causing havoc, and a disease that is so stubborn and has been here with us. Madam Speaker, we are devastated because the health facilities that are taking care of health patients, cancer patients, are so overstretched, Madam Speaker. We note with a lot of concern that we only have 58 oncologists in this country. We only have 60 oncology nurses, 12 oncology pharmacists. We only have 27 radiology technologists and 2 nuclear medical physicians who are so overstressed and overworked because the number of patients that they handle on a daily basis cannot be able to match the expertise. Madam Speaker, I want also to note with a lot of concern that out of the very many cancer patients who are detected every year, 78% of them have no chances of survival. That means, Madam Speaker, as a country, all the patients that are detected and having cancer, they don't make it. Maybe they die in the next 5 or 1 year after the detection of cancer. Madam Speaker, I was so concerned when Madam Bose Sholai was giving evidence of reasons why our people are dying of cancer. PET science, which have been condemned in the Western world, they are still in the counters in our country. And because of corruption, these pesticides are still seeing their way to our farmers. We are still buying the products which have been sprayed using these pesticides. And Madam Speaker, this exposes all of us to the dangers of cancer. Because, Madam Speaker, when you visit a market, whether it's groceries, whether it's a fruit market, wherever you go, you don't inquire which pesticides are being used to spray those vegetables that you are buying. Madam Speaker, it is the high time that as a country we join forces together and walk the talk of ensuring that if something is condemned, we all rise up and condemn and urge the government to ensure that the 257 condemned pesticides are out of our shelves as early as tomorrow. Madam Speaker, we also have an issue of even beauty products which find their way in our markets. And these beauty products are condemned also in other countries, and they are still in our shelves, Madam Speaker. And all these products, because the effects of cancer is never realized in a day. The effects of cancer is realized after maybe 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or even 5 years. And Madam Speaker, we are saying this is the high time that the various government agencies work and ensure that they are not corrupt, so that things that are not supposed to be in our shelves, they are not found there. Madam Speaker, I want to say the proposed fund that Honorable Timothy is proposing will ensure that we increase in capacities of the community health system to create awareness about cancer and early care seeking, therefore increasing the chances of survival and successful treatment. Madam Speaker, we also want to increase in human resource capacities at all levels of care community, county and tertiary and at the national level. And this will ensure that the detection of cancer and early and accurate diagnoses are made so that the referral and treatment are done at the earliest opportunity. Madam Speaker, this also fund will ensure that the procurement of equipment for diagnosing and staging to complement the current capacity, noting that all available facilities are only found at the Kenyatta National Hospital, and then most recently, Kenyatta University Teaching, Research and Referral Hospital. These are the only public utilities that have all the gadgets that are required for proper diagnosing of cancer patients. Madam Speaker, I want to also say we have also health facilities which are private and they are not within reach of the common persons, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you realize cancer is the only disease that will eat your money, it will eat your relatives' money, it will eat the money of the entire community, Madam Speaker, and it will ensure that it carries all your wealth up to the grave. Madam Speaker, this is the high time that as a country we become serious with cancer. Madam Speaker, and the only way we can be able to do this is ensuring that this fund is put in place so that we can be able to employ at the earliest opportunity community health workers who will ensure that they can be able to assist the people at all levels to detect the early symptoms of cancer. Madam Speaker, I want to say as a house, it will be very, very unfortunate if we can sit here as registrators and not pass legislation that will ensure that cancer treatment, cancer prevention is accessible to all of us. Madam Speaker, I wish to support this very important motion and urge Honorable Timothy to ensure, and the entire House, Madam Speaker, to ensure that we walk the talk and this debate does not end by only debating. We take action. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I know I should be looking at the left side, but I am going to purposively go to the Honorable Member for Westlands, the Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me a chance also to speak on this motion. Madam Speaker, when I came in, I listened to the Honorable Deputy Speaker when she was speaking, and she gave quite some good information about prevention of cancer, because some of the chemicals that we are consuming, Madam Speaker, have been banned in many countries, but are still here on our shelves. Madam Speaker, prevention is always better than cure. And if we work on the causes of cancer from the onset, then we will be able to control or manage the effects of cancer that is now spreading like a wildfire. Madam Speaker, in the last parliament, we lost 2 honorable members, I think 3 or 2. I know Honorable Ken Okoth, a very good friend, and Honorable Waititu, a member for Ruiru. Madam Speaker, we lost them on this cancer. And many, many other Kenyans, Madam Speaker, who are suffering. And cancer, when it hits, Madam Speaker, it doesn't matter how much you have made your savings. It trains you, it trains your family, and it leaves the families devastated. It is good.
Honorable Gathoni Wamushomba, you have a point of information, but I'm going to find out from the Honorable Member for Westlands whether he would like to be informed. Would you like to be informed by the Honorable Gathoni Wamushomba?
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to inform the Honorable Member that the late Honorable Waititu Wakape was not a member for Roiro constituency, rather he was a member for Juja constituency. Thank you.
Thank you for that information, Madam Mheshimiwa Wamchomba. Madam Speaker, cancer is some disease that needs very high level of diagnostic. I remember the Honorable Ken Okoth, for a long time, he was being treated for just common ulcers. But later on, when he went abroad and they was diagnosed with the cancer stage 3, Madam Speaker, it was quite unfortunate that if it was diagnosed early enough, he could have prevented it. So sometimes even the diagnostic is also something that we must work on, because many times people end up being treated for a different thing, and yet it is a different disease that is hidden within the body. Madam Speaker, we must also look at some of the things we allow in our country. We import some things, and including so many things, not just that are the things that are consumed, but even things that are used commonly. We find that things that are they are bringing very close to us and are causing cancer, even in the villages where you could not imagine that we can have such a disease, Madam Speaker. We have seen chemicals used in the farming, and some of them which have been banned in all over the world, but they are still here. Madam Speaker, we must look at it carefully, and we must also, the people who are responsible for controlling these things, Madam Speaker, they must be serious, because some of them overlook and allow some of these dangerous things to get into our system, and they come and infect us. Madam Speaker, cancer is not just a common disease. It has been, and it lacks proper cure. Sometimes we just try to prolong it, but it will, eventually it will bring somebody to end somebody's life. So we must seriously, as a country, start working on prevention and make sure that the causes of cancer are totally minimized or eliminated altogether, so that we prevent, we protect our populations and most of our people from getting these infections, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to congratulate Honorable Toritich for bringing this, and the fund for this, establishing a fund for cancer, Madam Speaker, it will be a good thing if the government can do that, because this will also help people who are being trained or who are taken out of the country, and we go and spend a lot of money. But if we have even investment in the country and have more facilities also dealing with cancer, especially if we can have it at least at every county level, then it will be able for people to access treatment quickly and to be very near and accessible to them. So, Madam Speaker, establishment of a fund, I think in collaboration with the county governments, it will be something that will be handy for all of us, and we want to encourage this, and maybe the honorable member at a later stage can even take this and convert it into a bill and bring it so that we can pass it into a law and make sure that the Kenyans can access treatment, affordable treatment within the country and within the facilities that are available, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you, Member for Westlands. The Honorable Mark Mwenje, Member for Embakasi West. Mark Mwenje's card is really blinking on intervention, so he's out of the House. The Honorable Agnes Pereio, Member for Narok North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to put my voice on this motion on establishment of a National Cancer Prevention and Control Fund by Timothy. And before I continue, I would like to thank Timothy for bringing this motion to this House. Cancer is a killer, and it kills everybody. And I think it is our concern as leaders to look at this issue and make sure that these funds are available. And it is worrying to hear that there are international countries that are manufacturing pesticides that kill our people, and they don't sell them in their country, but they come and make money from us. This is a shame for us to know that these pesticides are killers, and we allow these pesticides to remain on our shelves or in the shelves. Because I believe that Roundup, because I come from Narok North, and they do a lot of farming, and they use Roundup as a pesticide in preparation of their land for growing. Then it starts from the aggravate, because I believe they inhale Roundup at the shops. And then it moves to the innocent women and children as people spray their land. It's taken by wind to innocent people who are not even there. And we just can't be keeping quiet as leaders as we see our people suffering. To me, I hate and I fear and I can never forget cancer. This is because it killed my father. And when it was pronounced, everybody was shaking and everybody started seeing like using resources on my father was like a waste of resources, because after all, he was going to die. Because people believe that there is no cure, and of course there is no cure, and so there is no need of using resources. So that's why I support this motion, to make sure that we look at funds and we come up with funds that will take care of our people. And at the same time, we also need to create awareness on the innocent people who think that Roundup is doing any good to them. We need them to be aware that when they spray Roundup, they are bringing near to themselves cancer that is already a killer and that is already killing people. So we also need to educate our people. And that is especially after us having a motion here in the introduction of comprehensive health education as a core subject in our schools, so that we can also have our children, our girls, our women, our young women having knowledge on what causes cancer, so that they can be aware and they can start preventing by not doing what is not right. So our people should have information, and we should make sure that we put a lot of information so that as you use Roundup or as you have early sex, you know what you are taking yourself to or what is going to happen to you. So for me, I support this motion, and there is need for us as a house to make sure that we put into task those people that are making money out of killer pesticides that are killing our people. And with those few remarks, I support that there is need for us to have these funds to control and to make sure that we support those that are already have cancer, so that they can have hospitals to go and they can have insurances, so that they can treat themselves and they can take care of their relatives. And with those few remarks, I say thank you and I support.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Caroline Ngeleche, member for Elgeyo Marakwet County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I rise to support the motion on establishment of a National Cancer Prevention and Control Fund by Honorable Timothy Toroitich, my MP, the MP for Marakwet West. Madam Speaker, as I sat here listening to members' debates, I realized that the issue of cancer is very emotive. But then, Honorable Speaker, I think we should focus now more on the discussion on the funds of that as per the motion. Madam Speaker, and I'll choose to stick and discuss on the funds to control and prevent cancer. Madam Speaker, as a country, I think not enough focus, or we've never given attention to the killer disease that is cancer. Madam Speaker, we have so many people nowadays in Kenya suffering from cancer than even malaria. But then, Honorable Speaker, the government, there are funds allocated to malaria. There are funds, even when we got COVID, funds were allocated and vaccines were free. We have donors giving ARVs, antiretroviral medicine. We have others even helping us to control births by giving us pills. In many public places, Madam Speaker, condoms are free and you can pick from any and every other dispenser. It is about time also we get to give a slot to cancer, Madam Speaker. Somebody might argue and say that these other ones are donations. But then for the government, if there is no one who is interested to give a donation, or if there is no one who is interested in funding this one, the government of Kenya should actually pick it up and ensure that we do something about cancer. Madam Speaker, cancer, I think, has affected almost every and other family. I lost my father 2 years ago and my grandfather at the same time to cancer. I understand plight that families go through when they have cancer patients. You feel helpless, you get traumatized, you're drained to poverty, and eventually the worst nightmare is you know that you are eventually going to lose this person, especially if they are in the later stages of cancer, that is stage 4, stage 3, or stage 4. Madam Speaker, at times we spend a lot of money, even when we've been told that our patients are now given palliative care and nothing is going to be done to save their lives. But then since you cannot just sit and watch your beloved one dying, you will still spend money knowing that that money is just going to the grave. Madam Speaker, it is about time in this country that some terminal diseases, and in this case cancer, be a burden of the government. The government should help people, or to help the people of Kenya to shoulder some burdens like these ones, because some are very preventable. Like malaria, you can prevent. We could prevent COVID. HIV is preventable. Even the birth control pills are not necessary. We can prevent it naturally. But for the case of cancer, that is something that we don't even know when we have it. And we work with it for several years, several months before it is discovered, and we are now told that there is nothing that can be done about it. Madam Speaker, if we are to collect the resources used by individual people in Kenya to take care of their loved ones, to treat their loved ones, to offer palliative care to their loved ones, it is a huge amount of money that can even run the economy of this country. Madam Speaker, some people who have means, or also who don't have, but they still need to have their loved ones alive, fundraise, contribute, sell property, and even travel to China. They travel to India. They travel to the UK and to the US. The worst thing at times, Madam Speaker, is when you are in those countries, they never tell you that this person is not going to survive. They milk you to zero. They drain you to zero. And you will come back maybe with somebody who is not alive. You might come back with somebody who is dead. Even the expenditure of having a dependent there is not easy. As we speak, Madam Speaker, I have my friend hospitalized in India. His name is Jude. Being treated of the same, being treated of cancer. It is not cheap. He's been there 3 times. It is not cheap. He's taken loans. He's done all he can. Madam Speaker, some of those expenses can be made cheaper if the country, if as parliamentarians or as Kenyans, we set even aside one hospital that will deal exclusively with cancer. We have so many private hospitals around. We have even those who offer palliative care. And you find, Madam Speaker, even when somebody is on palliative care, maybe they still do chemotherapy or radiotherapy for maybe 35,000 shillings per session, 40,000 shillings per session. This person needs other drugs. So you're just paying knowing that I'm not going to have this person again. Madam Speaker, I support this motion by Honorable Timothy, and I want to thank my MP for coming up with this motion. I want to support and say that it's about time, Madam Speaker, we treat this pandemic called cancer. We give it attention it requires. We give it the resources required. Madam Speaker, when people go out of the country to get treated for cancer, they come and tell us that the technology outside there is way superior than what we have inside, within Kenya. And it leaves me asking myself, can the government even allocate us one center fully equipped with modern equipments so that some of those people who have average earners, so that even if we fundraise for a patient or we fundraise for someone, we don't have to incur money on air tickets, on hotels outside the country. So, Madam Speaker, I want to support this motion, and I want to urge each and every member here. It is too unfortunate that when we are discussing such sensitive issues like these ones, it doesn't give much attraction to many members. But to me, this is what has made me sit here from morning, Madam Speaker, as I waited to be given an opportunity to contribute, because I know this is what is affecting each and every person, and it is draining us financially. I beg to support the motion, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member for Elgeyo Marakwet. Honorable Member, just to inform you is that the screen is full. Many people are interested in talking about this, and thank you very much for debating very well. Honorable members, before we go to the next person, the next honorable member to speak, I would like to recognize the presence of students seated in the speakers gallery from Merera High School, Naivasha constituency, Naivasha County. You are welcome to the National Assembly to observe the proceedings of the House. Honorable members, the next opportunity goes to the Honorable Beatrice Elachi, member for Dagoretti North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also rise to thank Timothy, for indeed giving us this motion. That is a motion that I know many Kenyans, wherever they are watching and asking, are we going to come up with something that can save the challenges that many families have gone through, Madam Speaker? As we also know that this is a disease, a demon that has made many families very poor. Madam Speaker, in this House, we lost the governor, the late Joyce Laboso. Just a few days ago was her memorial. We lost honorable members. Through COVID, many people succumbed because of COVID, and they had cancer. They just went. We lost so many doctors. We have lost so many families. Today I have so many families, Madam Speaker, in Dagoretti North. Today, this morning, I was talking to the mom for Coach James in Kawangware, and we were just discussing how she's going through her chemo, how do we support her through her NHIF, and not just her, many other women and men and children, and who are sick today. We pray that as we discuss this, Madam Speaker, that all those families, may God just give them grace as they go through this painful process. I want to thank Madam Speaker, our Deputy Speaker. She started by just telling us about how, and this is something that in our country we have entertained. I don't know how we entertain, how we just move on. We entertain when we have our own in offices who have just decided to ignore some of the things that we are saying, even in this House. Madam Speaker, when you look at the pesticides that have been banned in Europe, and you might be surprised they are in our shelves in Kenya, you will be surprised that they are numbers and numbers. I am hoping in Kenya right now, Asafet is out of the shelf. I am hoping, Madam Speaker, Aldrin is out of the shelf. Dinosebe is out of the shelf. Madam Speaker, Aldrin is out of the shelf. Benson is out of the shelf. Calcium cyanide is out of the shelf. Edrin is out of the shelf. Menazone is out of the shelf. Nitrofen is out of the shelf. Sodium methane is out of the shelf, and many, many others, Madam Speaker. When you name them, you walk into any of those local vet kiosks that we have. Madam Speaker, you'll be surprised. One of these is somewhere. And our farmers are helpless because they don't know. And here we are talking to an authority, a body that is supposed to look at all these things, and we are saying we are safe. Madam Speaker, cancer arrived in our country as a silent killer when those who are doing pesticides were now making money. Today, where we are talking, every Kenyan you'll hear when you go to hospital, Madam Speaker, they have inflammation, they have this, they have this. As you move from inflammation, your parent, your mother, your father, your relative, at the next, because you cannot diagnose and understand, next thing she will be in stage 3 cancer, stage 4 cancer, H. pylori every day because of water. People are just in hospital, Madam Speaker, every day a kit of H. pylori, a kit of H. pylori. We are forgetting it just moves and becomes that silent killer. And as we put in this, Madam Speaker, we need to request the government, first of all, through just the NHIF card, can we improve it for our Kenyans to use it in hospital? For those who are going for chemo, for those who are struggling, they have to come to Kenyatta. Madam Speaker, we can be better. We can make it better. And we can look at how we deal with this. Once and for all, we can put up our own research center, our own place. We are told, Madam Speaker, for you to just get the drug, to get exactly and diagnose, you either have to go to South Africa or you go to India. So in Africa, it's only South Africa. Why can't we also, as a country, look in a place where we know it is not crowded, it doesn't, because there's a lot of radiation in it, Madam Speaker, and start ourselves to save our own. Madam Speaker, I believe today this is the #1 killer in our country. It is the #1 poverty killer. It takes the face, it completely, you find people are helpless. They would wish to see their patient through, but they are so helpless. But also, Madam Speaker, you find that also we have taken advantage again. And it becomes so expensive for our Kenyans. So if we support Timothy to do this, to take it to a bill. But in the meantime, ask the government to ensure you enhance NHIF to be better for any person who is going through any chronic disease in this country. Madam Speaker, the other day I did a call in Dagoretti North to just try and do a few through our NHIF and to see if I can just deal with those who have chronic disease and our elderly parents. But this is not enough, Madam Speaker. It's a bit sad. And today when I see us, even walking, you walk today, you are normal, tomorrow you find yourself. But also, Madam Speaker, I want to plead with those who have the insurances, even our own insurance. Madam Speaker, you can go even 10 times. You are told, oh, you must get the letter from the doctor, or you go, you get the letter, they say, no. You must change and have you cannot go there again to be diagnosed. You cannot go there for testing again. So you are wondering, you have an insurance, you cannot go for any treatment, Madam Speaker, without being tested again. So even our own insurance here, they have to change their attitude on what they are doing on members. Because I'm in the service committee, Madam Speaker, and there are many complaints also. And we want to say, if a Kenyan feels they want to go for treatment, allow them to go, Madam Speaker. This thing of you remember, Madam Speaker, a few months ago, there was a motion they were trying to push that you have to go through the ministry, and we refused in this house. We said, by the time you are going all over the ministry to sign off somebody to go for treatment, that person will be no more. So, Madam Speaker, we are saying, if any person has an insurance, by a parastatal, by a company, given, allow them, if there's nobody who is willing to go and sleep in a hospital for the sake of sleeping in a hospital, so they should be allowed, if they go and say, I feel this and this, and I have gone through several treatments, allow me to move and go for other treatments, they must be allowed. And they must be allowed because that is the person who understands where they are sick, how they are sick. Madam Speaker, even as I name this banned pesticides in the European Union, in India, how I pray that in our country, as I have said and named some of them. There are so many, Madam Speaker. There are more than 200 that are supposed to be out of our shelves today. And not just the ones that are supposed to be for Kenya, Madam Speaker, but we also need to ask, we need to check what has been banned in European Union should be banned in Kenya. What should be banned in India should be banned in Kenya. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I just want to say this is one motion that we should carry to the end as the 13th Parliament and see that we have saved the face of many Kenyans. For all those Kenyans who have passed on through cancer, today we celebrate you wherever you are, and we pray that God has mercy on your souls. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very much, Honorable Beatrice. The Honorable Brighton Yegon, member for Konoin.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to contribute to this motion of establishment of National Cancer Prevention and Control Fund by Honorable Timothy Toroitich. Madam Speaker, as you know, cancer is a menace, and many Kenyans have been consumed by the cancer menace, and it's actually spreading like a bushfire, Madam Speaker, in our villages, and it's a total disaster. Families have been drained of their resources due to huge budgets required to treat cancer and even the other terminal diseases. Even as we talk about cancer, there are also other terminal diseases that are draining resources of our people, especially the kidney dialysis, HIV and AIDS, diabetes, among others. Madam Speaker, fundraising to mobilize for funds has drained the community of the resources, and also many families have sold all their land, all their investments, all their hard-hand resources to actually try and fund the treatment of this terminal illness. Madam Speaker, the causes of these diseases, it's suspected that one of them is lifestyle. The other one is a pesticide that we use as some of the causes of this particular disease. However, the main cause of cancer is still a mystery. And we are only told that early detection of this particular disease can actually be, actually you can treat a disease that this disease, if it's earlier detected. The government should put in place relevant equipment, relevant infrastructure, sensitization, human resource capacity to handle early detection and therefore the ultimate treatment of this particular disease. Madam Speaker, the state should come on and handle the bills under the National Care or National Cancer Prevention and Control Fund, so as to promote prevention, to promote control, and to promote treatment of the cancer in our country. And in these few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support.
Much, Honorable Brayton. The Honorable Catherine Omanyo, member for Busia County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support this motion and thank my dear colleague for even making this come at this time. If you look at the temperature of the nation, these are things that members of parliament should be discussing, because we will be judged by the altar of public opinion if we just came here and sat, enjoyed our salaries, and went home. Looking at how the European nations have been dumping toxic wastes in Africa and bringing, making sure that they hold some of the top people in government to make sure that their poisonous things that they don't know where to put, they bring in our nations. If you go to shelves in chemists, pharmacists are selling things that in the developed nations have been banned. Why are they bringing them to Africa? If you go to farms today, the farmers are using pesticides that are toxic to our health. And they know very well that our health system is not yet at par as theirs. And if they tried and found out that it is poisonous, why bring it into our nations? We want those people who are supplying these pesticides named and shamed, and if there is a board that has been compromised, that board to be dismantled, because we are talking about people who are endangered. Our people must be protected, and the right people to protect them is this house, this parliament. So those pesticides that Honorable Gladys Sholay has already even detected, put it in writing, knocked doors, said this thing is killing us. She is a very good farmer. I know, and I've witnessed her in her farm busy. So she's not talking out of theory. It is pragmatic. Why should we keep counting? Oh, cancer is killing us. Oh, cancer is on the rise. Oh, cancer. And we know that we have the oomph to prevent from this, from being spread. So we need those people that are allowing these pesticides to be supplied today, if not now. They must be named and shamed, and if they are in big offices, we need them out of those offices. We know very well that if we have this fund, cancer fund, in time, we will have these symptomatic patients detected in advance. If cancer is diagnosed in advance, that means it will not be costly. They will actually try to seize it. They will prevent it. They will do whatever they can do at their capacity. Those doctors know what they do to at least control it and kill it. Actually, cancer can be healed if they detect it on time. But normally in Africa, cancer is only diagnosed or detected at the time when it has eaten up the person. They are almost dying. And most people know once they announce that you have cancer, it just means you are already nearer the grave. So we can do something about this. The nation at 60 years plus, we are not young, we do not have teething issues of asking how, and we have the best research, Nairobi University, these other institutions that do research can do this. Let us not keep thinking that the solution is somewhere else or the solution must be in Europe or America. The solution is in our hands, and this is the time to activate what we can do as a nation and stand tall. Thank you, Madam Speaker. We have to put these health issues as a priority. You cannot be leading graves. We want to lead people who are healthy, and a healthy nation makes wealth. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable George Koimburi, the member for Juja.
Asante sana Madam Speaker kwa kunipea nafasi hii ili nikaweze kuchangia jambo hili ambalo limeleta shida katika taifa letu la Kenya, mambo ya ugonjwa huu wa kansa. Lakini Madam Speaker, ningeomba tu waheshimiwa tujaribu kuiangalia kwa undani zaidi, sababu mwenye ameleta mswada huu ameongea mambo ya kucontrol funds ambazo huwa zinatumika sana wakati tunatibu ama tunaangazia huu ugonjwa wa kansa. Madam Speaker, ni jambo ambalo ni la muhimu la kuzungumziwa katika jamhuri letu la Kenya, sababu watu wengi wameumia na watu wengi pesa zao zimeisha. Familia nyingi zimezorota, wameuza mashamba, wameuza manyumba, wameuza pia rasilimali ambazo zimewafaidi jamii zao. Kwa hivyo ningeomba Madam Speaker, tuiangalie jambo hili tukiangazia sana pahali pesa hizi huwa zinaenda, tuhakikishe ya kwamba zimerudi kwa raia, zimesaidia watu, na sana sana zisaidie kujenga mahospitali na pia kupeana madawa ambazo zitasaidia kutibu ugonjwa huu wa kansa. Asante sana Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Asante sana mheshimiwa wa Juja. Nafasi inayofuata itaenda kwa mbunge Edith Nyenze, mbunge wa Kitui West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also air my views on this motion from our colleague Timothy on the establishment of a National Cancer Prevention and Control Fund to control and prevent cancer in the country. Let me start by saying that this motion is very important, and in fact, such a fund shouldn't even find its way in our budget. We should budget for such so that we may help our people, because it's the responsibility of the government to ensure that we have a healthy people, we have a healthy nation. So it's very important to have it in the budget. So keeping a healthy nation will ensure that we are economically stable, that our bodies are healthy, and it will even go a long way in ensuring longevity of our people. So it's a very important motion on prevention and control fund to prevent cancer. I also note that this fund will be very important to educate Kenyans and also make awareness on this disease known as cancer. Actually, it should even be declared as a national health disaster, because my colleagues will bear me witness that every time you are in the constituency, this is one of the diseases which is taking a lot of money and also affecting very poor people who cannot even afford the treatment of the cancer. And therefore, such a fund would also come up with prevention measures and also awareness on how this disease can be controlled, on how this disease can be managed, on how this disease can be controlled. And actually, what I want to say is that if it is proven that some of these things like pesticides are coming from other countries, pesticides, some chemicals, some cosmetics, some medicine, that they are finding their way into our country and causing cancer. So what is the government doing? Where is KEBS? Why are they not preventing us from getting such goodies from outside the country, which would bring such disease? So I would caution that the government, we should be very careful. If this one is a proven fact that they are causing cancer, then we should be doing something to prevent these things getting into our country. But Madam Speaker, also, sometimes I even question about cancer. They say that cancer is caused by weight, that is excessive weight. They say that cancer is caused by tobacco. Cancer is caused by alcohol. But sometimes I wonder, you go and see a very thin person in the country who does not even take meat, and they say meat also causes cancer. You see someone who is very active in the rural areas, a very poor man, a very poor lady who does not take meat, who does not have excessive weight, someone who does not take alcohol, someone who does not take tobacco, and then they have this cancer. So actually we should come up with some diagnosis to say exactly what causes this disease. Because it's not a disease for the rich, it's not a disease for the poor, it's a disease for all. So when they talk of weight contributing to cancer, I'm not saying it doesn't, but I've seen many people who are not who do not have excessive weight getting cancer, as I've said. So we should come up with some real causes of cancer, some real prevention measures, real awareness to our people so that we can know what to prevent. Because I'm sure, Madam Speaker, that almost everyone of us is affected or affected by this disease in one way or the other, directly or indirectly. So, as I've said, I think we should declare this disease as a national health disaster, and then the government should come up with measures in budgeting for this disease. Even Kenyans, we can also contribute to this fund. We can contribute to this fund, maybe even through the awareness. We could have cancer walks, or even if it's on an annual basis, and we contribute towards this fund. I'm sure all of us, since we are affected, Kenyans would be willing to even contribute to this fund and ensure that this killer disease, this horrifying disease, is controlled, is prevented, and, if possible, reduced in a big way. And with that, Madam Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member for Kitui West. Honorable members, before we go to the Honorable Wamushomba, I would like to welcome students seated at the Speaker's Gallery, St. Peter's Kambukaini Secondary School from Kieni constituency, Nyeri County. Students, you are welcome to observe proceedings of the House. The Honorable Gathoni Wamushomba, Member for Githunguri.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to surely support this wonderful motion, a meaningful motion on behalf of the great people of Kenya, because cancer has indeed been a menace in our households. Allow me, Madam Speaker, to congratulate the Honorable Member, Honorable Timothy Toroitich, for this wonderful motion. I am sure the people who voted in this Honorable Member are proud to have a realistic member who's moving with the times and the needs of the people of his constituency. And on behalf of all other members, Honorable Timothy Toroitich, thank you for filling the gap. Honorable Speaker, every time I am in my constituency in Githunguri, I receive 10 to 10 cards inviting me for fundraisers, medical related. 50% of the cards that I do receive are cards that are fundraising for the sick, bedridden, hospitalized, dead and not released to bury because of bills associated, and others seeking medication outside the country and they cannot afford the bills they are in. Madam Speaker, every single household in my constituency has such related cases. Families are going bankrupt. Families are selling ancestral land to cater for medication. In my constituency, Madam Speaker, my voters are farmers, and we concentrate on dairy cows. So we use our dairy cows as assets. We have provided our pedigree cows in hospital as security to be able to cater for medication bills. It is so emotionally challenging for a family to give out their cows, their title deeds, their logbooks into hospitals so that they can be able to take care of the ailing kings. Madam Speaker, I am very excited about this idea of establishing a national cancer preventive and control fund, because without money, any intervention cannot be implemented. But I'm also very, very keen to know, after we debate this motion, and probably we create a fund, do we have a departmental sector within the Ministry of Health that strictly takes care of cancer, diagnostics, investment, and other activities around cancer? Madam Speaker, I come from a media communication background, and I've been very active for the last 24 years in this country. And while I was on radio, I invested almost 50% of my time to speak about malaria control in the late 90s and early 2000, up to about 2006. Every single morning, we aired advertisements
sensitizing communities around the lake, around the Central Highlands, the Eastern Highlands, on how to prevent malaria. We even created a department in the Ministry of Health called the DOMC, Department of Malaria Control. That was a preventive intervention. Madam Speaker, we have the money, and we are supporting this motion so that we can create the money through the National Cancer Preventive and Control Fund. But Madam Speaker, after we get the fund, what preventive efforts are we going to put in place so that we can have a complementary approach? We control, we fund, and we prevent. But Madam Speaker, how do we prevent? Because preventive medicine is cheaper than curative medicine. How do we prevent cancer in this country when we have made Kenya the dumping place for electronic waste, which within it has very serious levels of lead, a metal associated with causing cancer? Madam Speaker, how do we control cancer, yet we are still allowing fuel in this country that is not purified enough and carries with it lead, a hard metal that is known scientifically to cause cancer? Madam Speaker, how do we control the spread of cancer when we still are allowing pesticides in this country that are banned in other areas of jurisdiction because of the mess and the hazard associated with such pesticides? Madam Speaker, about a month ago, I traveled to Japan, and I had a discussion around our coffee and people who buy our coffee from Kenya to Japan. And sadly, they told me that they no longer buy coffee from Kenya, and our coffee is banned for the next 3 years, since 2020, because of impurities that have been traced to be carried by our coffee because of use of banned pesticides. Madam Speaker, I even got a list of pesticides that are in use in Kenya that are currently banned in Japan. They gave me a list of 127 pesticides allowed to be used in Kenya. But if you go to the website of Pest Control Board, Kenyan Pest Control Board, you will find over 300 pesticides allowed. The difference of those pesticides, Madam Speaker, is what is even making our coffee not get market outside Kenya. We are the source, we are the conduits, and we are the problem. Even as we set this National Cancer Prevention Control Fund, we must come up with complementary approaches that are going to help us win the war against cancer, like we did with malaria control and many other diseases that has been our problem, and we have come up with a solution. So I do support this motion, and how I pray that this is not going to die at the motion level. How I pray that, Madam Speaker, through your honorable chair, you are going to give directions on the way to actualize the National Cancer Prevention and Control Fund. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Member for Githunguri. The Honorable Naomi Wako. Member for Marsabit County.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to add my voice to this very important motion that has been brought to us by Honorable Timothy Toroitich, and also thank him for coming up with this motion that concerns each one of us. Madam Speaker, as many honorable members have already said, cancer is a disease, is something that is affecting our country and has affected every family in this country in a huge way. Some people have suffered because of a family member. Others have lost 2 family members. And you can imagine even the stress, the financial, it drains people financially. And you can imagine what many families have gone through, especially those who have been affected in terms of 2 members of the family. And cancer is something that, before we used to believe that maybe it is because of your advanced age that you get cancer. But today, even a 1-year-old baby, even 6 months old baby, I have witnessed a child who is less than a year who died of cancer. And it was very traumatizing for the parents, for the mother and the father to sit there and take care of a sick child who is quite young and cannot even be able to bear the pain. Madam Speaker, families have been denied the opportunity to grow economically and even as a family because of the confusion that this disease has brought into many homes. I know even here as we sit, many of us have been either been affected or others survive with cancer. And that is why deserves. Cancer, as we all know, is said to be the 3rd. But I think today we can all say that it is the first and the leading cause of death in Kenya. And especially when it comes to the leading different cancer that affect. You can imagine of women that have died or have already been suffering because of cervical cancer. Many women are suffering because of cancer, and many have died because of breast cancer. Many children and grown-ups are suffering because of chronic leukemia. Many are suffering because of stomach cancer, and you can name it. And this is something that the moment you hear of cancer in your family, it brings a lot of problems, because poverty levels of our members of the country and county have been increased due to this disease. Madam Speaker, that is why we as the leaders in this country today need to come up with a measure, with a way that cancer can be fully controlled. And that is why establishment of National Cancer Prevention and Control Fund is something that we need to do now, if not now, like yesterday. Madam Speaker, early cancer screening and management is good for us to advocate for in every county, so that in all the 47 counties, we have the cancer screening centers and management, so that people don't travel. The people from Marsabit travel for hundreds and hundreds of kilometers all the way from Marsabit, which is almost 700 kilometers from here. And people travel in order to seek for medication. So if we have cancer centers and management in every county, and not only have the building alone, but have it with all the requirements, with all the equipment, with all the doctors and the experts to manage that, then that can help people. Today, Madam Speaker, people don't even get to Nairobi. Many of our patients travel all the way to India. And the question that we need to ask ourselves is this: we have all the hospitals we need in this country. Why would our people travel all the way to India? The expense you incur in Kenya is almost 3 times or 4 times than the expense that people incur in India. And that means then there is need for people to review even the cost implication of cancer treatment. Madam Speaker, proper research needs to be done in order to know the causes of cancer in almost all the counties, because like my county, suffers a lot, and many, many people have died and still suffering because of this disease. Nobody knows the cause. People blame eating of meat or animal product. Others say it is because of the chemicals, and some of our people are not even exposed to chemicals. They live such a natural and traditional lives, so you wonder where they get these diseases from. Others say that it is because of the refrigerators and refrigerated food. Many of our people do not have even refrigerators at their homes. And so we need to do enough research and invest in that. Again, there is need for us as a country to provide good medical care to the patients and also caregivers. Counseling to both the sick and the caregivers is something that we need to do. 1 year ago, I lost my mom to cancer, and it was very painful to watch her going through the chemo, the pain and the suffering, and it is still very fresh in my mind. It is a disease that I wouldn't want any other Kenyan to die of. It is a disease that I wouldn't want to see any family suffering and trying to manage. Madam Speaker, we need to come up with a way. And also, one of my colleagues has already said that we need to take it as a national disaster. In fact, a disease that takes almost 32,000 or 40,000 people. When the mover was moving, he said about 90,000 to 100,000 people per year. That can only be a national disaster. We are losing young, we are losing the old, we are using even the babies, and that is why we are calling upon our nation even to announce this and pronounce this as a national disaster. Madam Speaker, the only thing that we can give to the people who are currently in hospitals, suffering and going through the pain of chemo, the heavy medication, and the pain, the trauma that they are going through, the only gift that we can give them as they go through that is to establish this cancer prevention and control fund as a nation, whereby they know, even when they are on that bed, they will know that as a nation, we are thinking about them and we are working with them. Madam Speaker, there are families that have lost both the parents to cancer, and children are left orphaned. We need to come up with a special program so that all the children orphaned as a result of cancer can be given special care. Number one, they fear that they are also going to die because of cancer, and that is why counseling is necessary. A special fund for them is also relevant so that they can be comforted even if their parents or one parent has gone. Maybe it is the breadwinner who has gone with cancer. They know that they will get the necessary education so that they can take care of their lives in future. Madam Speaker, there is need for Ministry of Health to come up with serious measures and way forward so that when people get into this, then we know that as a country, we are taking care of this. Madam Speaker, I support this motion, and it is my prayer that very, very soon, these funds will be established to comfort and help those who are already infected and affected by the disease. Thank you.
Very much, Member for Marsabit. Honorable members are listening to various members as they contributed. The Honorable Amushomba called upon the Speaker to guide, and I have heard other members calling upon the guidance on what needs to be done. One is to bring to your attention that there already exists an Act of Parliament that is the Cancer Prevention and Control Act of 2022. So it is important for the mover of the motion to find a way of bringing an amendment to this act. I'm sure you know what to do. You will be guided by the clerk's office. We have a robust legal department that can assist you to ensure that all these matters that are being raised by the members can be brought in as an amendment. I hope that helps to guide the House and also for the other members who are going to contribute going forward. Honorable members, now we will go to the costs and we'll have the member for Magarini. I hope that he's in the House. The Honorable Harrison Kombe, member for Magarini.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia fursa hii kuweza kuchangia katika hoja hii ya saratani. Mheshimiwa Spika, jibu la tiba ya saratani iko kwa Waafrika. Jamii ya Magharibi ni wazuri sana kwa kubuni matatizo, lakini si wazuri wa kutoa suluhisho, ila Afrika peke yake. Swala hili la saratani ni swala ambalo tunaweza kulizuia na kulimudu. Kwanza niseme shukrani kwa ndugu Timothy kwa kuleta mswada huu wa kuweza kubuni hazina maalum ambayo itashughulikia swala hili la saratani. Hii hazina kwanza itatusaidia kwa kuweza kufanya utafiti na pia vile vile itasaidia hata wale ambao hawawezi kugharimia matibabu haya ya saratani. Saratani ni ugonjwa ambao unaweza kudhibitiwa na pia vile vile kumdiwa kwa wakati unaofaa. Shida kubwa ambayo tuko nayo kwa wakati wa sasa ni kwamba madaktari wetu hapa nchini si warahisi wa kukwambia wewe unaugua kansa. Maana wanaogopa wakikwambia hivyo utaingiwa na hofu na vile ukaweze mambo yakaweze kukuharibikia haraka kuliko kawaida. Na hofu, niambie bunge hili kwamba hofu ni ugonjwa ambao hata umeshinda hii saratani, kwa sababu hofu peke yake inaweza kukuua hata kabla. Zamani upungufu wa kinga mwilini ulipogunduliwa, ilikuwa kuambiwa tu wewe uko na HIV tayari ushakufa. Hivi leo ukiambiwa una saratani tayari wewe unafikiria miezi 6 baadaye utaenda kupumzika kaburini. Lakini si hivyo. Inastahili watu waambiwe mapema.
I would like to be assisted to identify the member who has crossed from the left all the way to the right. Which honorable member is this? Is he a new member in the House? I hope you are not going to cross back to where you were. Is the member? It is unfortunate that the clerk's office is also not able to identify him. But I would like to guide you that if you want to cross, you have to go all the way to the end, bow, and then you cross to the other side. I know that we are still learning, but I encourage you to learn faster. It's 1 year down the line. You may continue, member for Magarini.
Asante, Mheshimiwa Spika. Nilikuwa ninaelezea ile shida ambayo inatukumba. Kwanza, wahusika wenyewe kuenda kufanyiwa utafiti ama kuenda kufanyiwa uchunguzi, si wengi wanaojitokeza. Na pia vile vile ni kwa ajili ya hofu ile ambayo imeweza kuwekwa pale, lakini ukweli ni kwamba tunaweza kuzuia na tunaweza kumudu ugonjwa huu wa saratani. Niseme bunge hili limebahatika kwa sababu tuna ile gym pale mahali kwa mazoezi, kuna ile sehemu ya reflexology. Ni sehemu muhimu ambayo hata kama ugonjwa utakuandama siku chache zijazo, kwa njia ya reflexology unaweza ukajulikana unaenda kuandamwa na ugonjwa gani. Hii saratani ya aina yoyote pia inaweza kugunduliwa hata kama inaanza saa hii kwa kutumia ile njia ya reflexology. Hivyo basi ningeuliza ikiwezekana katika mafunzo ya udaktari ikaweze kujumuisha reflexology, kwa sababu ni kitengo muhimu ambacho kinasaidia kujua magonjwa aina mbalimbali. Reflexology inafanya kazi sawa na ile mashini ya MRI. Hivyo basi ningehimiza wizara husika ikaweze kuona kwamba hili somo linafundishwa katika vyuo vyetu vya udaktari. Hapo tutaweza kusaidia jamii yetu kwa kukinga na pia kudhibiti huu ugonjwa wa saratani. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia vile vile kuna hili shirika la ubora wa bidhaa. Ni shirika ambalo kwa sasa linatugwaga, kwa sababu hivi tunavyozungumza, kwanza kwa madawa yale ambayo yanauzwa kwa sasa ama yanatumika, 60% ya madawa hayo hayafai kabisa. Ni 40% tu peke yake ndio madawa ambayo yanaweza kutufaa kwa matumizi, lakini 60 hayafai na bado yanapatikana katika maduka ya kuuza madawa. Hilo shirika pia ingefaa lipigwe tochi ama lipigwe msasa. Kwa hayo machache au mengi, Mheshimiwa Spika, niseme asante tena. Asante.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa wa Magarini. Honorable members, I would like to find out whether the following members are in the House because their names are appearing on the screen. The Honorable Eric Muchangi, member for Nyanjes. The Honorable Lillian Sioi. Please remove those names from the screen. The Honorable Anthony Wainaina, out of the House. Seems they left their cards inserted. The Honorable Joses Lel Mengit. The Honorable Wakili Moriu. Okay, thank you very much. Let us proceed to the Honorable Joseph Emanthe, member for Turkana Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. First, in the onset, I will want to say thank you to Honorable Toroitich for bringing out this motion on the establishment of a Cancer Prevention and Control Fund. Madam Speaker, the first thing I will want to give as part of my input into this motion is that the effects of cancer is actually one of the most contributing factor into our socio-economic growth, and the negative effects of cancer is what makes even our economy in one way or another not to grow in a better trajectory, because we are spending a lot of money at the household level to treat cancer. When we get into the statistics of cancer, you realize that cancer is one of the third highest cause of morbidity in the country, and this contributes to 7% of the death in Kenya. Madam Speaker, I will not want to speak so much into this because my fellow members have been able to speak into it, but I will want to appreciate that the president of our country was able to take the CSS into a contract signing process. And what I wanted to input into is that when we are able to introduce a fund, a cancer fund, it will be easier to measure their performance. It will also be easier for us to understand how much of our funds in the country goes into supporting cancer prevention and control. And therefore, when we say that we have a National Institute of Cancer,
That is member for Kisii County. You know, I know that you're still learning, but when you entered, you stuck on the left, and in the middle, you crossed the floor to the other side. So you do not do that. I would like you to walk back, bow, and make a decision on which side of the aisle you want to be and walk there. You may proceed, Honorable Member for Turkana Central.
Honorable Speaker, what I wanted to mention is about the performance contracting and also the introduction of the National Institute of Cancer to take charge of the fund. Once we introduce it, it will be very much easier. And lastly, Madam Speaker, is to ensure that this comes out as either an amendment to the existing act or we provide for a regulation that will help us be able to bankroll on this fund. Because, Madam Speaker, it is a very, very important fund that will help us as a country. Looking at the much agony in terms of emotional challenges, the household is brought from let's say maybe 60% access to income to zero, and the dependents are left, and so much of agony is left behind when the patient or the person who was maybe the household breadwinner or the caregiver dies. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support.
Thank you very much, Member for Turkana Central. The Honorable Francis Igay, Member for Sotik.
Madam Speaker, I also want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to also contribute to this very important motion. And on onset, Madam Speaker, I want to thank my brother, Honorable Timothy Toroitich, for bringing this very important motion to this House. Honorable Toroitich, through the chair, I would like to thank you. And I know this motion speaks to the people of Sotik because, Madam Speaker, for many of the funerals I've been attending in my constituency, people have been asking me to talk about this issue in Parliament because, Madam Speaker, it is the most prevalent disease in Sotik and the entire Bomet County. Madam Speaker, this disease is costly. This disease is scary. This disease is devastating. This disease is terminal. And therefore, Madam Speaker, this motion has come at the right time. And Madam Speaker, I want to support the member who said we would like the government to declare this disease as a national disaster. That will allow the government now to look for funds, which the Member of Parliament, the sponsor of this motion, has mentioned. Madam Speaker, we need money. This disease has brought our people to abject poverty. People have sold land, people have sold cows, people have sold everything. And Madam Speaker, people who have died are poor, people who have died are rich. It doesn't know the age. It doesn't know the limit of whatever people have. So, Madam Speaker, I would like to mention a number of things which I feel should be done. Number one is the public education. People should be given the issues of causes of this disease to know and understand. I know, Madam Speaker, from the talk which we have had today, it appears that nobody knows the cause of cancer. And therefore, we need to look at the causes of this cancer because nobody knows. We need experts to come up with the causes, make research, and the government should also give money. And Madam Speaker, I know this House has a duty to really work on this issue. And Madam Speaker, I would like to talk about these pesticides and chemicals. Madam Speaker, it is in the hands of this House. This House can make decisions. This House, Madam Speaker, can call upon those who are responsible of allowing chemicals and pesticides in this country. And Madam Speaker, we have our whole Committee of Health, which can call and summon those who are concerned. The Minister for Health should come to this House and explain to us why they are allowing these chemicals into our country to kill our people. Madam Speaker, I also want this House to allocate more money so that this government can be able to work on this disease. Madam Speaker, I also want to urge the move of this motion to bring in some amendment on this act so that we can be able to bring funds and ask for funds from the national community to come and assist us. Madam Speaker, I also want to ask the government to establish a cancer center in every county so that it can be able to do this, to learn and prevent this disease. Madam Speaker, I also know that we have few specialists, especially oncologists in this country are very few. Radiologists in this country are very few. Madam Speaker, we would like to see this being done. And then lastly, Madam Speaker, is the issue of vaccination. We need to look at vaccination. Vaccination is a very important preventive measure, which if it is done, we can prevent these diseases early enough, and screening of patients in this country. Madam Speaker, I would like to support this motion and thank Mheshimiwa Honorable Toroitich for bringing this motion today, and I know it's going to be one of the best motions I've ever seen in this House. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very much, Member for Sotik. The Honorable Amina Mnyazi, Member for Malindi.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu ya wakati nitazungumza haraka. Jambo la kwanza ni mshukuru ndugu yangu Mheshimiwa Timothy Toroitich kwa sababu hili swala la saratani ni jambo ambalo linagusa kila Mkenya, na ninapozungumza Mheshimiwa Spika ni jambo ambalo liko karibu sana na moyo wangu. Kuunga mkono huu mswada Mheshimiwa Spika ya kwamba tuweze kuweka kitita cha hazina ili sisi kama Wakenya tuweze kujikinga na kudhibiti ugonjwa wa saratani ni jambo ambalo litaweza kutusaidia sisi mahali pakubwa sana. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama nchi sisi tulipokuwa tunapambana na janga la TB, janga la malaria na janga la ukimwi, serikali iliweza kuangazia haya magonjwa kwa undani zaidi, na nafikiria ni wakati saizi Mheshimiwa Spika hata hili janga la saratani tuweze kuliangazia kwa wingi zaidi. Mheshimiwa Spika, pale Malindi kuna watu wengi ambao wako na gonjwa la saratani, na nami nimeweza kuwasaidia kwa njia tofauti, lakini ni vizuri saizi tuweze kuweka vichwa vyetu pamoja ili tuzidi kusaidia watu wetu. Jambo la kwanza, hata mbali na hizi pesa, sisi kama wabunge na kama serikali ni lazima tuwezeshe zaidi madaktari wetu, tusomeshe watu wetu kuhusu ugonjwa wa saratani, ndipo tusipate madaktari ambao ni kidogo, tuweze kuwa na madaktari wengi ambao wanaweza kutusaidia kwa upande wa saratani. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama vile magonjwa mengine, kama gonjwa la ukimwi, wako na madawa yao na wanapatiwa madawa na serikali pamoja na vyakula. Hata wale ambao wako na gonjwa la saratani ni muhimu tuweze kuwasaidia, waweze kupata madawa, waweze kupata vyakula ili waweze kujisaidia katika hali yao.
Honorable, in the interest of time, honorable members, the Honorable of Amina Mnyazi will have a balance of 3 minutes when this debate is put in the order paper, and after which the mover will be called to reply. So, honorable members, at the time now being 1 o'clock, this House starts adjourned until today, Wednesday, the 2nd day of August 2023 at 2:30 p.m. Thank you.